Perfect.
Are live for the 2023 College Fantasy Football Kings Classic. I'm in studio, but we have John Lobb live from Canton, Ohio at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. John, how we doing, man? We excited? We're going to do a little pre-draft coverage here. We got about 5 minutes before the draft kicks off here. How we feeling?
I'm feeling great, man. We got an upgrade in conference rooms, Matt. We are actually literally in the Hall of Fame. It is called the Media Room. I'm here with 6 members of the Kings Classic League. It is just absolutely fantastic. You can see a little bit behind me where we are. It is just an amazing what Bob Lung and everyone at the FF Expo and the Hall of Fame has done for us today. I wanted to congratulate Shane Hallam, who is the defending champion. He won the belt last year, and we have a belt that we're going to be giving out this year for this year's champion. It's the 3rd year of doing the draft. Here is the belt that we are playing for right now, everyone. The Kings Classic compliments of Trophy Smack. So we are giving out that to everyone. So Shane is looking to defend, and we have 10 other great experts joining us, and hopefully they'll get a chance to win the belt. And if anyone's listening right now, if you go to either Matt or my Twitter page, you will see that we have a donation link. It also should be on the YouTube page, right, Matt? There is a link for St. Jude's
on the video.
Children's
It's in the video.
Yep, there's the link for St. Jude's Children's Hospital. If you like anything Matt and I do, or any members of the CFF community, most of the stuff you can find, for free. You don't have to be a member. Hey, if you have anything, $2 to $10, smash that link for St. Jude. It is for children and families who have cancer. Unfortunately, the children, we're raising funds for that. We're almost at 1,300. So if you are watching this at any time, please smash that link and make a donation.
All right. We have a ton of viewers coming in already. Feel free, use that comment feature. Let us know where you're checking in from, what you're excited to see today. John, I'm excited because we have, I call it 11 college fantasy football experts and myself doing this draft here. John, year 1, finished dead last. Year 2, 3-way tie, just missed out on the playoffs via tiebreaker. This year, man, we're making the playoffs. I'm coming for that belt. And with the randomized draft order, I lucked out. I got the 101. So I feel like a lot of folks probably know what direction I'm heading in here. But you have the 104, John. So just, before we actually get into drafting, what's your pre-draft approach? I'm sure this is probably like your 12th or 15th college fantasy football draft of the year, and I'm sure you got some more left before we actually start the season. Are you approaching the Kings Classic draft any different, or are you just looking to get in here and see what edge you could try to take against these experts from around the CFF industry?
Well, when you're drafting with the best people in college fantasy football, you have to go get your guy. That's the number one thing that I've learned, having participated in NFL expert drafs and in college fantasy football drafts now for over 15 years. So if you like a player and I'm at number 4, so there's going to be a long time in between picks. You have to go get your guy. Now, I'll be honest, I have 4 players in my queue, and I will draft whichever one is remaining at pick number 4. So my strategy is going to be dependent a little bit upon who the first 3 picks of the draft, where they are going. I have pretty much 3 avenues. I know I'm not going to get Caleb, so I'm waiting on the other 2 picks because I'm going to assume that my partner will take Caleb Williams to open up the draft. That leaves 3 other players in the queue. So I will then make a decision which direction I go, and then that will formulate where my 2nd and 3rd round picks are going. So I'm I'm cool with whichever avenue or whichever road I have to travel down. If it's the running back, wide receiver, if it's a quarterback, I will not be taking a tight end that early. I can say that, even though, I thought about players, tight ends. I won't give out any names in case people are thinking about drafting them. But I don't think they're worth the 4th pick overall. I think they're back end early round 2 value. But it's going to depend who goes in picks 2 and 3.
Awesome. John, what's really awesome about this live stream as well is not only are we drafting against some of our favorite analysts in the industry, really, but We also get to hear from them. So once we actually kick off the draft here, we're going to go through about the first round with me and John giving analysis. And then after that first round, we're going to bring in, and everybody who's drafting here today with us, you're going to hear from throughout the draft. We're going to talk strategy as the draft unfolds, what decisions we make. We're going to analyze some picks. We're going to have some fun with it here. And John, we are getting some awesome check-ins here. South Carolina, Brazil, North Carolina is in the building. We have Michigan in the building as well.
Here,
so we're
let me
all over the
introduce.
country,
Wait,
man.
here's
We're
our defending
international.
champion, everyone. Yes. This is Shane Hallam. He's the defending defending champion. Some cheers and some. Now, I did not know this man is a ringer because he won the poker tournament. Yeah.
Yeah, we can't let Shane get the full sweep here.
So we got a ringer here in game theory that I invited in by mistake. But Shane's in here, so he's drafting with us too, everyone.
John,
sorry, Matt.
No, that's all right. Virginia represented, Michigan well represented. We got 2 check-ins here from Michigan. Texas via Nebraska represented here. So it's awesome, man. I am so excited here. We are, John, 1 minute away from the draft actually starting. It's very exciting for us. We got a little love for CFF lists. So if you're coming in from a particular favorite analyst that you're rooting for, feel free to put that in the comments as well, especially if it's the rookie big board. No, just kidding. Everybody, of course, some really awesome analysts from around the industry. Rochester, New York, Florida checking in here. Nice. Oh, and we have Shane's nemesis, not rooting for Shane, arch nemesis. So Colin, maybe
Shane,
Colin
your
will
arch
be rooting for
nemesis
us here,
has posted. Colin 8189. Shane just says, "Oh." He is in the live chat. Hey, everyone, if you are listening to us, put the state that you're from. Let's see how many states we can get by the end of the 2-hour chat today. It sounds like we have at least 6 or 7, right, Matt, already?
6 or 7. We have 2 countries already as well. 2 nations already as well. And John, I'd love to see it for our rookie big board listeners. We run underdog contests, and we've done like 15 just for patrons, and I didn't get any 101s. It's the running joke for underdog. So Patty is pointing out that I have finally gotten the 101 here today, John. So thanks to you. I can't get it in NFL, but I'm going to get it in college fantasy football. And John, as you can see here, as you can see from the draft, we are officially underway. I'm not going to make it dramatic here right off the bat. I'm just going to go ahead and make my selection. No surprise here. Caleb Williams coming off the board first from USC. Now that's going to bring Zach on the board here.
Zach's in the room. He's with me right now. He's got a Miami Hurricanes jersey on, and he's on deck, everyone. He's on the clock.
He's on the clock. Zach is on the clock. So that was a pretty easy decision,
the energy
John.
Emanating from his brain here.
And as we go through this draft, one of the things we'll point out here, roster requirements, it is a 2 QB league. So that's probably going to affect here how the first few picks unfold. And at the 102, Drake May is coming off the board. John, were May and Williams 2 of the players that you said were sitting in your queue?
Actually, May was not in my queue right now. So that kind of opens up a little bit of value on my board. Okay. So now I have 3 players that I am looking at. So I might be able to get the one who I'm really trying to target right here.
I think I know who you want, John. I think I know who you want, and I think we might have a little bit of a tip-off. Okay. I don't want to give Dwight any ideas, but there might be a little bit of a tip-off based on maybe
my jersey that I'm wearing
right now. Who he might want to draft? I don't know.
If you don't notice, everyone, I have a Justin Herbert number 10 jersey from the Oregon Ducks here. A bunch of us decided to wear our favorite college jerseys, or just jerseys that we like. So I got that on. We have a Georgia jersey in here. We have a Oklahoma Sooners. We have a Tennessee Volunteer. We actually have a USC.
Hey, go Vols, baby.
Froton switched to USC all of a sudden. And Zach has Miami Hurricanes. So we're well represented across the country with our college jerseys on. And I hope Dwight knows that he's on the clock
King's Classic gear here. If we were doing jerseys, I would have thrown on the Vols jersey. What are we doing?
You do. What number Vols jersey do you have at home, Matt?
Which I have the black and I have the smoky
Oh,
gray. Yes.
ooh. Actually,
Yeah. So coming
oh,
in here,
I
Brett
am
asked a
up.
really good question here. Brett said, "Are you going to talk
Oh, I hate
do's and
Dwight Peoples
don'ts?"
more than anything. I
Absolutely. So
swear,
Brett, just so
Dwight
you know,
Peoples
we're going to kind of let the
is the
first
bane
round
of my
unfold a little bit.
existence.
And then we're going to talk strategy with our different guests as all the analysts roll on. So we absolutely will be talking about strategy throughout this. And that's going to put John on the clock
All
here.
right.
Austin Reed coming off the board, 103. And as I expected here, John went with Bo Nix at 104. Now, was that the ideal, John, for you? It's all quarterbacks so far. So we're going to see if Jared's going to break that. But before we do, we got to get some insight here on that decision.
Yeah, I had pretty much made up my mind I was going to take a quarterback with the fourth pick. I thought obviously heavily about Quinshawn Judkins, and I thought obviously heavily about Marvin Harrison Jr. But I wanted one of the what I consider to be the big three quarterbacks. I kind of wanted Austin Reed because believe it or not, I think I only have Austin Reed in one draft. So I was
Mm.
hoping because I have a lot of Bo Nix. So I wanted, if you play in a lot of leagues, I think this is my 15th CFF draft you mentioned before. So I looked so far on my rostership, and I only have one team with Austin Reed. So I was just going to take Austin Reed. I mean, I'm happy with Bo Nix, but I think I got Bo Nix on 9 teams now. So I could be in trouble if I suffer an injury. So I do like to diversify a little bit at the quarterback position, but I'm perfectly fine with Bo Nix. Who went next? I didn't see who that next pick was.
Yeah, 105, Jared took Malachi Corley as the first wide
Oh,
receiver off the board. And then at 106, it was Quinshawn Judkins by JD. And at 107, Shane goes Marvin Harrison Jr. So we had a comment here from RJ. He pointed out Marvin Harrison Jr. maybe slipping a little bit going 107 here. It's a pretty interesting. I can't wait to get Jared on and talk about the benefit of taking Corley over Marvin Harrison Jr. here.
yeah,
Whoa,
it's
and
funny.
there's
I have noticed the same thing about Marvin Harrison Jr. In general, he has fallen more to the fifth to eighth picks in the drafts than earlier in the year when he was like a top three player off the board. Who just went? Who did we miss?
Gadsden
Oh,
just went
Mike
off the
Bainbridge
board at
loves him.
108.
Or Rondé Gadsden.
That's a really interesting one here. Now, John, the tight end format in this league, what's the breakdown on that? Does it make it a little bit more interesting than maybe your standard league?
Well, we have one tight end. There is no tight end premium. So there's not like a point and a half. They score the same as the wide receivers. I just know I've been in enough drafts with Mike this year. Got Gadsden last I looked has dual position eligibility at wide receiver and tight end. So I do know that Mike has Gadsden ranked ahead of Brock Bowers from a fantasy football standpoint. So I know that he likes that. I would assume the positional eligibility. And I know he's been taking him in the first round of most drafts. I'm not against it. I think Gadsden's a great value at the top. I prefer tight ends in the second. Now, I would have considered Gadsden anywheres after pick number 9. And right behind me, another gentleman, Dwight Peoples, just walked in. If you've seen our Kings Classic, the bane of my existence, he's the one who took Austin Reed from me. But I do like Dwight, and I got to give him a shout out. If you've seen our Kings Classic video on Twitter, Dwight is the gentleman who put that together. He does fantastic video work. Hit him up if you ever need video work, everyone.
All right. And coming in at 109 is Rome Adunze. Adunze, John, was wide
Ooh.
receiver 2 in our rankings episode, our wide receiver rankings episode here. So to have him coming off the board 109, that's a pretty good value there. And then at 110 is going to be Raheem Sanders, the running back out of Arkansas. We're both big fans of Raheem Sanders, of course, as well.
And I've noticed that also Raheem Sanders now is a nice value. He's basically going in the first round. Sometimes you can still get him early second round. But I love Raheem Sanders anywhere's after pick 7. I would love the value between picks 5 and 8. And if you get him anywhere's after that, Rashid Ali just went, another top 3 running back on most boards. He went to Dynasty Pros, which I believe is Tom. He took him. So we're almost done through the first round. CFF guys is on the clock. And I think this is the first time CFF guys is at the end of the first round. I think the past 2 years he was at the top of the draft. So let's see how he feels with this.
Yeah, we have
Mixed
Rasheen
feels
Ali at
early.
111,
Ooh.
Horton going off the board 112, and he's going to double tap here. Josh is going to double tap wide receiver going Horton and then Emeka Egbuka. John, we're going to have Mike Bainbridge joining us soon from
Oh, good.
the CFF site, which I'm really excited about. Before he joins us, though, I want to point out we had a good question in the chat here about Bo Nix. That was your pick. Are you concerned at all with Kenny Dillingham, the former offensive coordinator, heading to Arizona State to be their head coach? Are you concerned at all about that transition for Bo Nix?
I've thought about it a lot, but I really don't think so. I mean, their offensive line is so good at Oregon. And I know that Bo Nix is looking at NFL draft capital. I have him as a second round grade right now. There are other great people who have Bo Nix in the rankings. He's clearly on the NFL radar. And I expect the Ducks, if you look at the early season schedule, to smash it. They should put lots of points on the board. I also, I say this in college fantasy football. Coaches want Heisman winners. I mean, how easy it is for Lincoln Riley to recruit when you have three Heisman quarterbacks and you coach them up. And I think the same is true with at Oregon, right? You want this Heisman Trophy quarterback. Last year, the Pac-12, if they didn't have a solid offensive line, I love their weapons. I would be a little bit more concerned, but there's so many pieces in place that I feel great with Bo Nix.
All right, welcoming in Mike Bainbridge now. Mike also got the jersey memo. I'm going to have to change halfway
Mike.
through this thing, man. Mike, I can't see the color scheme. Is that purple and yellow?
Yeah, it's the only college jersey that I have. So
ECU?
and
LSU?
LSU, Odell Beckham jersey.
LSU. Oh, it looked a little, I don't know,
nice.
The yellow looked a little off for LSU, but
I'm wearing the two teams that I think is going to be in the national championship this year, in Michigan and LSU. Early prediction.
I would be happy about that.
I like that. Just to catch us up here before we jump into chatting with Mike, Michael Penix Jr. went 202, Jacob Cowing 203, Braylon Allen 204. We loved getting that strategy question in. Let's ask about the picks here, folks. We have a ton of people watching live. Drop in the comments here what questions that you want us to ask all the analysts as they're coming on. Mike, we'll start right off the top here. You just made your second pick, so perfect timing. You're going to go wide receiver, you're going to go tight end, running back start here. Talk to us about those first two selections.
Well, I mean, you hinted at wide receiver initially for Oronde Gadsden, and technically that's what he is, right? But just listed as a tight end on Fantrax. So I'm subscribing to that notion this year with Oronde Gadsden, being this is a redraft format, or a standard redraft format. So he's going to give you consistency at the tight end position every single week. We know the dilemma with Brock Bowers in the past, right? Tight end one, but when is he going to go off? Nobody knows when those Georgia players are going to go off. He'll give you 6 points 1 week and 30 the next. I don't think you're going to have that issue with Oronde Gadsden, because just consistent targets and production every single week out of that tight end position.
Yeah, absolutely. So it
Mike,
gives you a little bit more flexibility as you're heading into the draft. Oh, sorry, John. Did you want to? It looked like you were on to jump in there.
I was just going to say, Mike, you started with the tight end and the running back here. Tell us why you went running back there, and what is, you don't have to, don't give names, obviously, but what is your quarterback strategy, considering that this is a 6-point passing touchdown league, which changes the value a little bit at the quarterback position?
Yeah, so I'll just talk about my second round pick first. That's more just I'm going with my guy, and I've kind of put my foot down on Jaquindon Jackson this year as one of my guys at the running back position. I mean, he's a converted quarterback to the running back position, still learning the nuances of the position. And if you look at all the reports you read, from the spring on, everybody talking about the Utah backfield. Workhorse is the word that always comes up with Jaquindon Jackson. I know we were kind of hurt by the Utah running backs last year, but I think I don't think that's going to be the case this year. And I think we're going to have a 200 plus carry back in Jaquindon Jackson. Lob, answering your question for the quarterback position, being 6 points, I was hoping maybe Austin Reed would fall to me. Probably wishful thinking at the 9 spot where I'm at, but I think you can wait a little bit if you don't get those top tier guys. You don't have to reach for some of the dual threats that we typically love in college fantasy. A JRP, for instance, I have him a top 10, but he's not somebody that I need to go up and get because he's only going to throw 18 to 20 passing touchdowns. So maybe I'll sit back and let the board come to me with 6-point passing TDs.
All right. And
I
as
think
the
that,
board
I
unfolds
know
here,
that
we have
there's a
Brock
bunch of
Bowers at
CFF experts who employ that strategy. I think it can work. I mean, if you hit on that quarterback who's going to throw about 30 touchdowns with some rushing upside, and they are out there in the middle of the round. So I like that strategy. I've done it once or twice, but I do know there's a lot of CFF experts who employ that.
Yeah, I would say the name that really comes to mind with 6-point passing TD is Kyle McCord. He only in a standard 4-point league, he's only going to get you probably 24 to 26 fantasy points per game. Not bad, right? But you want more out of an Ohio State quarterback. Typically 6-point, he jumps up into that closer to the 30-point per game range. So he's somebody that I have his QB 25, but he bumps up my rankings because he's going to throw for 30 plus touchdowns as an Ohio State quarterback.
That's one of the things that I like about the 6-point scoring format in college fantasy football is it balances out the running quarterbacks with the throwing quarterbacks a little bit more. Because if you're going to throw for over 30 to 35 touchdowns, it gives you a lot more value from a fantasy football standpoint. So it opens up the board and the value at quarterback. That's why I like the 6-point passing touchdown. In what you mentioned with the 4-point, it really hurts the throwing quarterbacks because they do lose significant production by the end of the season when you're only getting 4 points per touchdown, unless you throw 45, right? You almost have to throw 40 in a 4-point touchdown format.
Yep. Plus, every time I set up a 4-point passing touchdown league, I got Eric Froton yelling at me because he believes in tight end or touchdown equity or equality.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
Just to catch us up here, Brock Bowers went off the board 208, Trey Benson 209, Say Bangora 210. I had Bowers and Bangora lined up in the queue. So as somebody who is on deck, I am personally tilting right now. Scrambling to try to figure out who I want to take here. But John, you took Trey Benson. Talk to us a little bit about that pick here out of Florida State.
When you do a lot of drafts, and Mike's probably similar, we do so many drafts. He does even more than me. There are players that for whatever reason you don't get a lot of rostership of. And in general, Trey Benson has been going off earlier in most drafts. By the time I've had a lot of picks in the top 4, which is good or bad. It just seems like I get a lot of those top 4 picks. And Troy Benson has not made it back to me. So when I'm looking at my board, maybe I had him below someone like Kavorian Barnes, but I got a lot of Kavorian Barnes. I do believe in this Mike Norvell offense. I mean, I was a big believer with him at Memphis when you had Darrell Henderson, Tony Pollard, Antonio Gibson, the running back production that he had there. And now Troy Benson, I mean, I have a 2nd-round grade as an NFL draft prospect. I think he really wants to solidify that grade, and Norvell's offense is so explosive. So I have him at number 7 on my board, and it's the first time this year that I've gotten him. So I'm happy. Like, I kind of have tiers in my own head. I mean, I think we all do. We all do rankings, but like he's in that same tier in my book. Kavorian Barnes, Will Shipley, Blake Corum, they're all, and I just hadn't had a share. So I said, you know what? Let me get a piece of Norvell's offense. So I got Trey Benson this year. I'm very excited to have him for once.
Yeah, we all kind of do that, don't we, Lob? Like, we have our guys and we choose them for the most part in most of our drafts, but you kind of want to hedge your bet a little bit just in case, right? I don't have any shares of Squirrel White or like the Tennessee passing offense, but hey,
I know
maybe I'll take Joe Milton here in the 3rd round just to hedge my bet and make sure I don't miss out in one league with that Tennessee passing offense.
It's funny, Mike. I have to say, I don't have a lot of Tennessee wide receivers. I'm starting to get FOMA. Like, did I make the right? Like, I kind of think they're going to spread it around, but what if that doesn't happen? Should I have one of those players? And I don't have any Joe Milton. I just don't know if they'll make it through the whole season. But you know what? In the right draft, at the right value, I would take Joe Milton. I just am he's never made it through a full season. So like I think where he's being drafted is too high from my perspective, but I do wonder what if he does make it through the whole season? Am I just totally missing out?
I was gonna say Matt's
Ooh.
gonna tell us how wrong we are for not having any Tennessee shares.
Well, hey man,
Oh.
six times the try, right? Or the trick. So listen, Mike, we have Shane Hallam coming up on deck here, but I can't let you go without, just taking a moment to point out the CFF site, man, the preseason guide, the projections, the in-season DFS content, dude. It's some of the best. And my goodness, joining that Discord is signing up for all the notifications. So you guys are doing great work over there. I just, wanted to make sure we pointed that out here. Happy to have you on here. And it's such a pleasure to be in the Kings Classic draft with you.
Well, I appreciate that, Matt. You do a great job hosting this every single year. And Lob, can't thank you enough. I didn't obviously get a chance to make it to Canton this year, but I saw the room that you guys are drafting in. Lob, you do a great job of growing the sport. So thank you both. Thank you to you both for this.
Oh, thank you, Mike. And next year, hopefully you'll be able to come out. But you know what? I haven't said it publicly. Congratulations on your engagement. So happy for you and your lovely fiance. So that's obviously that is much more important. But maybe in the future we'll see. And you'll be in this. Mike, this room is amazing, dude. So man, you got to come in the future, my friend.
I know. We'll make it next year. And thank you again, Lob.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and
running back run. Look,
I know we're going to bring in Shane. I was going to say, we got to talk about these running backs. So it went Nick Singleton at 211. I used the turn to take Shipley at 212 and Cooper at 3-1. Then Blake Corum went 3-2, Webb 3-3, Henderson 3-4, and Jace McClellan 305. Shane, I want to just jump right into it here. Our defending champion, Shane Hallam, joins us. Yes. I want to get your thoughts not only on this running back run, but all the comments coming in here. Is the slide of Blake Corum. So do you feel like 302 is good value for Blake Corum? Or do you share the concerns that I share that Donovan Edwards is going to get a little bigger piece of the pie this year?
Yeah, look, I think 302 is good value just because he could do – I think Donovan Edwards is going to take a handful of carries a game, but that doesn't mean Blake Corum's not going to score you fantasy points. Like, I'm not a J.J. McCarthy guy. So I think they're just going to run both of them into the ground, and that's how it's going to go. So that's kind of my plan. This run's crazy. I'm going to keep it going here. I'm going to take a running back. I'm taking running back out of pick.
Wow. So now we're going to add.
God, what is that now?
Martinez
we're at 11 straight running backs?
Or 306, 307. Yeah, we're on a run of. What's that? 4 + 7, 11 straight running backs. So if Bainbridge takes a running back here, it'll be a full round of but at some point here, I think we're gonna start losing value. We keep
this is having done a lot of drafts, I have noticed that this is happening. The value with the running back is in the second and third round early. I've seen a lot of 9 out of 11 running backs go here. There's just so many. This tier, and I'm sure everyone breaks up the tier a little differently, but this is a running back run. I've seen this constant in CFF drafts.
Yeah, and it finally ends here with Banks, the wide receiver out of Wake Forest. I'm sure the Donovan Green injury boosts that up, makes that decision a little bit easier. For Bainbridge, and then T-Mac Tatoria McMillan goes off the board, 309 for Froton. But Shane, you got to start here of Marvin Harrison Jr., Frank Harris, and Rodney Hammond out of Pitt. So that is a balanced start between your positions. Do you feel good? Is this what you were expecting, or are you just kind of playing the vibes of the draft so far?
Yeah, I was just kind of playing the value. I mean, I didn't expect Harrison to be there. You guys talked about before, he's been falling a little bit. So as an Ohio State alumni, I mean, like Jared did with Brock Bowers, I could take the homer pick and be happy with the value there. But I wanted one of the early quarterbacks because I think, as you both talked about before, I think there's some real value. And I think Frank Harris, honestly, is pretty close to that top tier. I think he's closer than people are giving him credit for. So I was very happy with him there. So, yeah, I like the bounce draft. Very different from what I did last year, but I think it's working out so far.
Frank Harris.
This is a meat podcast, so we support the Frank Harris pick.
I think in college fantasy football, if my memory serves me, Frank Harris has finished in the top 12 each of the last 2 seasons because he has dual threat ability. You're probably going to get 400 to 500 yards rushing minimum. And then you're going to get a combined almost 40 touchdowns. I mean, the great value, hey, he's in the American Athletic Conference. And if you haven't looked at the teams in the American Athletic Conference, as I love to say, they are defensively challenged this year. So the Roadrunners should be able to put up a lot of points. I love Frank Harris.
Yeah, I'm excited for that too, and I think I think a lot of people, not in the CFF community, but I think a lot of people in college football don't know much about him. So I'm excited.
We're back to the running back run here. We got Audrey 310 and 311 Kavorian Barnes, another meep here out of UTSA. And then it looks like on the turn at 312 we have Matthew Golden, the wide receiver out of Houston. And let's see who we got queued up here from our friends at CFF guys for this next pick. But Shane, defending champion, we can't just, move past it. What do you think was the key with building last year's roster? Are you taking the same approach here? What's it looking like?
Look, I mean, it was my first year here. I was definitely one of the CFF newbies. So I think a lot of it for me was in-season management. Waivers in this league can really make or break you. And so I was really attached to that. I think picking some solid pieces, taking risks, taking Anthony Richardson last year really gave me a leg up in the quarterback game, getting him so late. So I think you got to take risks on some of those upside shots. And if it doesn't work out, I took Rasheen Ali in the first round last year. That certainly didn't work out when he didn't play most of the season. You can make those adjustments. So I'm excited to take a little more risk this year, actually, even than I did last year as we get to those mid rounds.
I think that's a big.
I have Eric Froton yelling in my ear over here about the running back round. Yep. Hey, the value's still on the board. And I think there's a little FOMO going on amongst the drafters here that they don't want to get left out of the running backs. So it's only 2 tight ends, which is normal. We haven't talked about that yet. Brock Bowers, and Oronde Godson are the only 2 tight ends off the board. And yeah, Shane, congratulations on winning it last year. I do think you beat me in the first round of the playoffs, if my memory serves me well. Yeah, Shane did. It was a great game.
I was worried.
It was a good game. And we'll have Jared on, who's actually lost 2 years in a row now. He doesn't want me to bring that up, but he's lost 2 times in the championship game. And Shane beat Jared in the championship game last year. But we actually got away from the running backs here. Go ahead, Matt. Who came off the board here?
Well, we did get C.J. Donaldson out of West Virginia at 401. And then off the board, John's favorite quarterback, Joe Milton, went 402. I thought maybe he would sneak back to me. It's not going to happen. 403 was Frank Gore Jr., and we did actually have a comment as the run was unfolding. They wanted to see Frank Gore. Andrew wanted to see Frank Gore Jr. come off the board, and he did at 403. At 404 was Tyler Shuck, the Texas Tech quarterback playing in the Kitley offense. 405 is Thrash, incoming kind of main wide receiver there for Louisville this year. Jordan Travis at 406, and now Xavier Worthy at 407. What a drop-off for Xavier Worthy. I mean, he was a first, second-round pick consensus last year. So I think that tells you a lot about perhaps our belief in Quinn Ewers. But we'll see when he comes off the board here.
Didn't Shane make a 4th pick, Shane? Didn't you? Who did you grab here?
I took Jordan Travis here. He was kind of.
Tell us why.
He's kind of sitting in the queue. I think similar to Harris to get that rushing yardage. I think Florida State's a sneaky team to go undefeated. And if that's the case, Jordan Travis is going to have a Heisman-type season. So if I'm going to make that prediction, it's going to back up with the numbers, even with Trey Benson, getting a ton. I love him too. But I love that whole offense this year with Keon Coleman coming in, and Jaheim Bell is underrated as well.
And if everyone doesn't know, Shane does incredible work at the Draft Countdown, right? It's the Draft Countdown website. I mean, his stuff is just first class. It's amazing. So from an NFL standpoint, I'm sure you've graded Jordan Travis, or at least looked at him. What do you think about his NFL potential? I know this is college fantasy football draft, but maybe people don't understand how good you are as an NFL prospect expert. Tell us what you think of a Jordan Travis from an NFL perspective.
Look, I think those things are linked a bit, because if a guy's going to go high in the NFL draft, he's probably putting up some pretty good numbers in college fantasy football. So, I think Jordan Travis is one of those kind of bubble quarterbacks that with a huge year could be, well, here's an athletic. He's small, but he's athletic, and he can hit some pinpoint downfield passes. Like, there's some real potential. I like a Joe Milton. I think a lot of these quarterbacks, and Travis is in that mix of, can he be a top 100 pick, maybe even move up into the first round? I think it's out there for him. So it's kind of a projection step forward, but I think in my mock draft I have up there that I actually have a new one coming out on Monday as we relaunch the site at Draft Countdown. I think I do have Travis going in day 2, and I think the sky's the limit for his draft capital too.
And Shane, the one thing that you've said, I've heard you say this before, and I think you're the only one other than myself who've said it, and I love it. College football production does influence draft capital in the NFL. And sometimes when you're looking at college fantasy football, don't overthink it, or draft prospects. If a player's going to go first round, he's probably going to put up 1,100 yards receiving, right? Like, I mean, it's rare. It happens sometimes, but I would give an example. Last year, look at what happened to Zach Evans. He didn't produce on the field. Look how far he fell in the NFL draft. I mean, there is some correlation, and obviously we know skills matter, right? I mean, Shane and I have watched enough tape. Matt has watched enough tape. Skills matter. But guess what? Production matters too. And if you start hearing draft buzz that a player is going to go in the first round, that's a pretty good indicator. They're probably going to rush for 1,000 yards and throw for 3,500. I mean, I do think that's an overlooked aspect of this kind of dynamic between Devy, Dynasty, and college. And you're one of the only people I know who talk about it often. If you listen to Shane enough, he will mention it. He talks about it a lot.
Yeah, I think it's an underrated part of the process. You always have a couple outliers, but like if you're not producing in college, NFL teams aren't going to expect you to produce at the NFL level. And like I guess Anthony Richardson last year, that was even a bash on him as production. CFF, he had the production, and I think that's what the NFL is seeing. Like, he could put up offensive numbers, and with the tools, those can combine to things. So I think it's a way to maybe get a little bit of an edge over some CFF drafters. Is think about, okay, what's this going to look like at the end of the year? What's it going to look like for the draft? And I think you can find some steals at that point.
I agree with you,
I
Charlie.
think we're going to have coming up on deck here. I think we have Eric Froton on deck. Before we do that here, and I'm using my clock time to buy some to buy some time here. But I know John mentioned the great work, Shane, that you do at the Draft Countdown. Also, really fantastic work with the whole Devy Marketplace team. I think one of the things we talk about a lot on the Rookie Big Board is that natural crossover, right? And when you can connect those two worlds, I think you get really great results. So Shane, you and Kane are some of the best out there doing it. Another great Discord as well that you all have set up. So just wanted to take a moment to point out those resources. And like John said, man, when you're looking and projecting NFL draft capital, a lot of times you're looking for aggregate, right? You're going out there, seeing who the folks you trust are and what they're projecting. And if Shane's not on your list of people that you trust, I don't know, you're doing it wrong. I mean, it's as simple as that. So wanted to make sure to point that out for you. And hopefully here we have some extra time at the end and we can bring you back on here.
No, sounds good. Look, kind words from both of you. Might get a little visit to the draft room from Kane and Nelly from Devy Marketplace at some point before this draft is over. So,
looking forward to that for sure.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you, Shane.
All right. Well, we don't have Froton in the waiting room, but we have Jared in the waiting room, and I think he was next on deck here. So I think we'll just pop on. We'll just pop Jared on here. We're gonna move our schedule around. Jared, is that cool with you?
I guess that's cool with me. You told me 11:30, so here I am. And then I looked at the schedule just now. I was like, oh wait, I guess I'm not on for a bit, but now I am. So we're flexible.
So before we jump into things here with Jared, I just want to keep us updated on the draft. So at 408 was Samson Evans out of Eastern Michigan, 409 Malik Neighbors, Sam Wiggles at 410. 411 was Luther Burden, which was a sneaky good pick. I really like him in the slot, so we'll have to ask Zach about that. 412, I took Troy Franklin, wide receiver out of Oregon, and 5-1, I took Jaden Daniels, just because I wanted to take two of my guys. And then Riley Leonard comes off the board, 502. But Jared, you have you drew some comments right off the top, taking Malachi Corley with the 105 instead of Marvin Harrison Jr. So thinking you wanted to go wide receiver there, why Corley over the Ohio State wideout?
I think it really comes down to the fact that what we saw with Ohio State last year is that when a guy gets nicked up, they're not afraid to pull him out for multiple games here. Oh, John, I thought you were going to give you some time there. Again, full PPR league. I'd really
die with him, Eric.
And Harrison in the same tier, and just kind of thinking about that a little bit more. What happened with Travion? What happened with JSN last year? Obviously, there were some legit injury stuff there, but they were not afraid to hold those guys out for multiple games just to be cautious because their eyes are on the playoff. I figured I would go with a guy like Malachi Corley, who they cannot survive without. So that is the reason why I went with him over Marvin Harrison Jr. there. I've made that switch in my rankings pretty recently, I will say. Let me go ahead and make my pick here real quick.
Yeah, I really like that approach here.
Ooh,
Thinking long-term, thinking big picture,
picks.
too.
Who'd you take?
All right.
Jared?
I took Joshua Cephas out of UTSA. I'm kind of surprised both the UTSA boys are still on the board here. I know Clark is definitely dealing with some injuries. That's I can totally understand why he's coming down on the board. But like Cephas, really the only main question with him was the DWI that he dealt with earlier in the offseason. From what I can tell, it seems like they've kind of dealt with that already. He should be good to go for the start of the season. And he was one of those 3 UTSA wide receivers that were just putting up monster numbers last year. So I'll take the shot here in the 5th round on that. My second wide receiver off the board here. I'm feeling pretty good about that.
Yeah, double meet here because we did have Clark come off the board 503 and then Cephas at 505 and sandwiched in between them. John took Juice Wells. John, I'm going to let you take the reins here of the mic for a minute because now that Jared is on here with a Georgia jersey, I really got to go get a Tennessee jersey. So I'm going to be back here. John's going to take the hosting reins.
So, Jared, I drafted with you enough, and you're great. Everyone doesn't follow Jared on Twitter. They're just not doing it right whatsoever, and now he's in charge or works at C2C, the college fantasy football, with their rankings and all the shows that Jared does. They're just simply amazing, everyone. And he does every Sunday night a best ball CFF draft you should check out on YouTube. They're just simply awesome. I've been lucky enough to partake in at least 2, maybe 3 this year already. So tell me why. I know you've been a proponent of Jason McClellan, and I don't think I've seen you take Evans. Tell us why you went back-to-back running back there in the 4th, 5th, or 3rd and 4th round.
I was definitely feeling the squeeze of running back. The like 3-5. It was between McClellan and Kavori and Barnes. I think either one of them were great picks there. I'm getting higher and higher on McClellan as we get closer to the start of the season. Alabama, no matter what quarterback they're going with, they're gonna have to rely on the run game even more than they have the last couple of years. They don't have a Bryce Young back there to rely on in the passing game. Jace McClellan is a veteran at this point. He's a lot better than I think a lot of people give him credit for. I think he will be a high draft pick in next year's NFL draft. He really is, in many ways, the complete package. He is a good between the tackles runner and a good receiver out of the backfield. Another reason why I went with McClellan. The Alabama running back has averaged 30 to 35 receptions over the last 5 years, at least the RB1. McClellan has that ability. I think he'll be able to take on that role this year. In the PPR league, couldn't pass that up. Evans was definitely a little bit more of a squeeze pick. Again, the running back run that we saw there in the 3rd and 4th round was just absolutely nuts. And he really was kind of the last in a tier of guys there. And again, I didn't love taking Evans because he's, again, not a guy who catches a ton of balls out of the backfield there. But, I think he's going to be valuable in action, and he's going to be a guy that gets 20 carries a game. So I like it.
Hey, I love those. So you are definitely, to my knowledge, the driver of the Jace McClellan bandwagon. So and I've seen him crawl up. I think we started, wasn't he like a 10th or 11th round draft pick way back in March or April? He's gone way up.
I wouldn't say that late, but he's definitely come up a couple of rounds since the start of the year.
Yes, and then Evans, I think he's a value. I have a lot of Evans because if you can get him in that 4th, or if somehow he falls to the 5th, he's a G5 guy, but Eastern Michigan's going to run the ball. And if people don't know, Evans originally had enrolled at Iowa, just couldn't get on the field. We've seen this a lot with young men at the college level, but he goes to G5. And what did he have, 1,300 yards rushing last year? Like,
something nuts.
Amazing.
Yeah. John,
I feel pretty good about it. Again, like it wasn't my preferred pick. I really wanted Xavier Worthy there, and I was kind of hoping that he continue to fly under the radar. But JD Yankee, he's a good drafter, so of course he sniped me on that one.
Yeah, John, I don't know
What
if
did
you
you
and
say,
Jared
Matt?
are too close to each other here right now, but you're getting a little bit of echo when you're both on. So
Is it coming through mine or coming through John's?
it's coming through John. John's got the echo right now. So we'll
Okay.
play around with that. Just give a little
I'll
bit
be
of an
quiet then.
update here. 506 was Burgess coming off the board, and then Squirrel White at 507, and 508 was Curly. Curly got a little bit of love here from the chat. Again, as those picks are coming in that you like, let us know. We'll talk about them. And as you have questions for different draft strategies, bring them on a little bit. Sorry, I popped off for a second, so I might have missed it. Did you talk about QB build here, Jared? The fact that you're 5 rounds in here, no QB. Are you no fear there?
No fear there. Again, I got a queue full of guys that I'm feeling very, very good about. That I again been very, very big on the round. Probably in this draft, given the fact that QBs come up a little bit because of the 6-point passing touchdown, this round 6 through 11 range has been where I've done the most damage with my QBs this year. A ton of guys fall into this range that I feel very, very good about. I have no fear whatsoever here.
Good. I think a great example of that here is coming off the board at 601 is Cade Klubnik, right? Like you have Garrett Riley's quarterback with Clemson weapons on the outside that you could get in the 6th round here. So that's pretty good value. And Donovan Edwards finally coming off the board at 512. That's been a big discussion here in the chat throughout this draft. That Donovan Edwards, Blake Corum breakdown. Where do you see that Michigan backfield falling?
I like Corum much better in this redraft format. I personally would not have touched Edwards this early because, again, he's explosive. I don't think he's going to see north of 15 touches in any game. Now, again, he doesn't need that many touches, so I think he'll still be good for Josh, who took him there in the 5th round. But, I'm looking for guys that I'm in redraft that I'm going to know on a game-by-game basis are going to get those touches and carries. Edwards, as far as we can tell, just really isn't that yet. Now, he'll have really big games because he can just rip off an 80-yard touchdown any given point. But I definitely like Corum in this format just a little bit more. I've drafted more Corum than I've seen Edwards this year. Edwards is great in best ball, though.
Yeah. I think best ball, it's a little bit more. It's it's so funny because we've seen what Edwards can do when Corum's not on the field, but of course, we've seen what Corum can do when Edwards isn't on the field for the primary game. So it's definitely a tough split there to break down here. Coming off the board at 602 is Allen, the running back that will take over those touches here for Sean Tucker for the Orange. Coming through here, had a comment, wanted to get your thoughts on CJ Donaldson. We had a comment come in about the West Virginia running back here. Somebody who you're targeting, you like that value there at 401?
So CJ Donaldson is definitely kind of an interesting guy. We all have a very high opinion of him because of just the absolute cheat code that he was last year at tight end. The problem is when I went and looked before his injury, he got through, what was it, week 7, week 9? I can't remember, but I went and looked. What would his fantasy pointage have been through that point in the year? And it was like something like RB 59. It was not like a super high guy. Yeah. Like once you put him at running back, wasn't quite as valuable as we kind of had this high opinion of him at tight end. So I haven't been targeting him a ton recently. I think I like him in the range of round 6 to 7 if he falls down into there. But going up to 4, I think I would have taken. There's some other guys. Again, obviously I took Evans. I would have taken Evans over him. Gore, I probably would have taken the shot on there. And then some of the other running backs that actually there hasn't really been any running backs come off since, except for Edwards and Allen.
Yeah, after our big run here, it's been wide receiver focused, and we're kind of getting that second round of quarterback run here. So we did get Dylan Gabriel come off the board 6-3, and I think it was Preston Stone coming off the board at 6-4 that drew a big reaction from the draft room. I heard an audible reaction there. And then Luke McCaffrey 6-5, and then Vaughn 6-6 here coming from Utah. Was that Preston Stone, Jared, that got that reaction?
I do believe so. John, you're a little bit more involved in that. So I was in the middle of something when you said that.
Well, I know that both Mike Bainbridge and Eric Froton love Preston Stone. I just put him in the queue because I was going to snipe those two, but it didn't get through to him. So I'm sure Bainbridge was interested. So when I saw Mr. Froton take Preston Stone, I just had to give a shout out because I know that last time I was in the FSGA draft, I think Mike Bainbridge was the one who got Preston Stone, and Froton was all upset in that draft. So I had to react to that. I think I'm on the clock.
Yeah, John is on the clock here. And Jared is not. Jared just made a pick. So talk to us about Finn, the quarterback out of Toledo.
Got to go for some of these matching guys here. Again, obviously, like the first couple of weeks might be a little bit rough. I can't recall Toledo's out of conference schedule here off the top of my head. But last year, Finn was averaging 30 points per game. Like, you don't see that when you look at like Fantrax history and stuff like that, because of a random like week 13 game. They threw him out there for like 2 plays, determined like, oh yeah, this is a bad idea, we shouldn't play him this week, and then brought him back. So he scored like 2 fantasy points that week, and it brought down his average. Without that game, he was averaging 30 fantasy points per game last year. And even in a draft like this, where you bring up some of those heavy passer guys, I am fully comfortable taking a dual threat quarterback like Finn here as a guy that'll carry me week by week, especially once he gets out of that out of conference schedule. And I'm telling you right now, he is not going to be the last quarterback I take here.
All right.
Well, obviously in the
like
draft, but I'm talking about soon.
All right. Let's see. So John Rice Plumlee came off the board 6'10". Antonio Williams came off the board 6'11". And now I need to decide what picks I'm going to make. So I'm going to pass it back on over to John here.
Sure. And what we're going to do, everyone, thank you for coming on again and watching us live. We're having a blast over here from the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. And thank you, Jared, very much for coming on. It's so much fun to have you. And I think this might be our 6th or 7th draft together by now, Jared. Jared and I are constantly drafting together. And that's one of the amazing things about our hobby. So you get to know all these great people. We're friends. And that's why I reacted to the Preston Stone draft pick, because I know Mike and Froton are definitely fighting for him, so that's fun. And what we're going to do next is Mr. Froton doesn't have a speaker, so he's going to come on, Matt, on my computer, and I'm just going to step away after I make my pick. So I'm going to wait here. Matt's going back to back, and then I have 2 picks till mine. I will make my pick, and then I'll step away, and Mr. Froton will come on, Matt, and you can chat with Eric, and that way we'll be able to get everyone on as we hoped. Any other last thoughts, Jared? I see you have 1 quarterback. I know you are a quarterback. You prefer to wait in these drafts. What are you thinking now with the quarterback? Are you going to wait again? Are you going to dip soon? Have you thought about that yet?
I mean, I definitely thought about it. There are 2 positions that I'm kind of looking at right now that I definitely need to address soon. One of them being quarterback. But again, I have a full list of guys here that I'm super, super comfortable with. So part of me is debating, do I take another quarterback here, just continue to load up on this awesome tier quarterbacks that are still available to me here? Or do I maybe target another position that I'm feeling a little bit worse about and try to see kind of what falls back to me here in the 8th round when it comes back to me? But we'll definitely see.
So before you leave, Jared, can you promote your Twitter handle and the website and everything that you do to give our viewers an opportunity to catch your great information?
Yeah, I mean, again, sorry, I'm trying to make sure the echoes aren't too bad. Apologies to everybody going on in the chat listening to that. Yeah, Matt CFF _Jared on Twitter. Again, I do pretty much exclusively college fantasy stuff over there. I'll make like comments about NFL every once in a while, but like they're not super informative takes. But again, college fantasy is what I do. I work with Campus to Canton. I had the college fantasy content over there. We got an awesome team of guys over there. We put out our CFF draft guide this year. So if you need help for your leagues up and coming, absolutely go check that out. It's only $20 on campus2canton.com. Got lots of great stuff over there, not just for CFF drafts, but for Campus to Canton leagues, Devi leagues, all that great stuff. In terms of the show I do, it's Chasing the Natty. We are on podcast and YouTube every Monday morning at 6 a.m. We cover a whole host of different topics for CFF every given week. It goes year round. We do not take a break during the off season. So we are there for you in February and January and every part of the year. And then the other thing I do, we got 1 more of these this year. We'll be doing next week. I do a live college fantasy draft every Sunday night on a stream, bring on a different guest. Sometimes it's CFF guys. So again, like this year, I brought on CFF lists. I have brought on some other guys. Always have a great JD Yankee and some other guys are Mike Bainbridge. And then sometimes I bring on guys who are big college football fans, but they don't do a ton of fantasy. Like this past week, I had Stats of War from Twitter. If you don't recognize that name, you've probably seen some of his graphs before. He was on, brought on a great fresh perspective on it. It's been an absolute blast, and I love doing this.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jared.
Appreciate it,
Thank you,
guys.
Jared.
All right. So it sounds like, John, that we're going to swap in Froton here for you.
Yep. After I make my pick, and I think I figured
Okay, we're
out the
gonna get your pick here. I went Devin Neal and Keithy, tight end out of Utah here, back to back. It was a little bit of a tilt here because I didn't realize Alex Adams went off the board at 6'7", so I had Adams and lined up in my head, and so I needed to figure out what to do with that. But we have the running back position down pat here, and I hate missing out on the tight end run, so hopefully I'm going to get a little ahead of it here. Barry and Brown coming off the board at 7:02. John, a lot of discussion in the chat here about Riley Leonard right now as you're getting ready to make your pick. They like the value here, 5:02. Thoughts on Riley Leonard? And I know you're getting ready to pick
Riley
here.
Leonard. I've had him early in the process. Back in March and April, I drafted a lot of Riley Leonard. He has moved up draft boards. When I was comfortable with Bo Nix at the beginning, I decided that I was going to wait a little while at the quarterback position till I got my second one. I did put Leonard in the queue. I think he's going to have a very good season. The optimism for the young man is really high right now. The draft prospect world is interested in him. I do think they're going to ask him to do everything with that Blue Devils offense. So I think there's a lot of production coming from a CFF standpoint. So let me see what I want to do.
Yeah, go ahead, John. Focus in on making your pick here. I'll mention too that Riley, between Jaden Daniels and Riley Leonard, that was a tough pick for me. But I actually have probably north of 50% exposure to Riley Leonard at this point. So when we're talking strategy, one thing I'm always trying to do is get, don't overexpose yourself, even if you like the setup. So at 5:01, I would have been happy to take Leonard if I didn't have such a high exposure. And John, he gets his guy here at 7:04. He takes KJ Jefferson, who, if you're listening into John at all, that's his guy.
Yeah, so it's been interesting because when you do a lot of drafts, you notice that there might be players that you like more than others. In the beginning of the draft season, I had to draft KJ Jefferson. It was my choice. I was drafting him third and fourth round. But one thing that I've come to the conclusion as I've studied other draft experts and other people, they're not as high on him as I am. So what does that enable me to do? I can wait patiently for him. I still have him in my top 10, but I seem more bullish on him than other draft experts. So I felt that I would be very comfortable if I waited, and there he was. I couldn't pass up. Now I have my two dual threat quarterbacks. If you play college fantasy football, I prefer two dual threat quarterbacks. Now I have a couple long shots that I like. If something goes wrong, injuries are always part of any football season. So there's a couple of players I like deeper in the draft for my backups who I'm comfortable with. But now that I got two, to me, star dual threat quarterbacks, I'm happy there. And I didn't talk about it yet. Michael Wiley, I took him there, and we have flex spots in this league, and it's a full point PPR. Michael Wiley is getting exceptional press coming out of Arizona this summer. I like that offense. I think that offense is going to put points on the board. They're not a very good team, so they might be playing from behind a lot. Michael Wiley is going to be on the field. He's their 3-down back. He's going to be pass catching. I've actually read people, NFL draft experts, are starting to get a little buzz, like their scouts are starting to mention Michael Wiley out there. He's a good back. Now, he's a late bloomer, so you're going to have people who just don't like players who come on late in their college careers. But I'm all in on Michael Wiley, especially in a full point PPR. But let me go get Eric Froton. He's going to come on next, everyone. I'll come back when Eric's done chatting with Matt. It's just the way the room is designed, and Matt's just going to, or Eric's going to come on with Matt. Go ahead, Matt, as Eric comes over.
Yeah, we'll catch you up here as we get Froton on. 7:02 was Barry and Brown. 7:03, we had back-to-back Brown picks here out of NIU. And then 7:05 was Ray Davis out of Kentucky. 7:06 is Curtis Rourke out of Ohio. And that brings Shane Hallam on the clock. We're moving quick now. I like it. Sheffield, wide receiver out of Washington State, coming off the board, which puts Froton on deck. Eric, how we doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much, Matt. Excited to be here, obviously, in this incredible room. And yeah, like you're saying, I am on the clock as we speak.
You're on the clock here. So while you're picking, I'm going to take some guesses here. Is that a USC jersey? Is that what I'm seeing here?
This is a
Little-
Caleb Williams jersey.
There we
USC.
go. All
That's
right.
right.
I
Right,
like it.
I got another
like
one
it.
underneath here too. Just a little treat. But let's see here. Let's see. Okay, so just a quick retrospective of what we got. It's 6-point passing touchdowns. I want to remind everybody of that because I went Tyler Shuck in the 4th round and Preston Stone in the 6th with that in mind. I want gunslingers, and it's 1 point per 20 yards passing as opposed to point per 25. So this is a juiced passing league here. That's how we do it here at the Kings Classic. So wanted to make sure I got some heavy, high octane passers, but that has left me in a position where I have one running back here heading into round 7, Braylon Allen, who I'm very happy with in my second selection. But hey, it's time to get moving. I think we can agree, can't we, Matt? It's time to get
Absolutely.
it RB2.
Let's hear it, man. I'm on the edge of my seat. I need the pick.
All right. Well, I have a couple guys I'm looking at here, and I'm hoping to get 2 of 3 of them, on the way back. I'm going to take one here. He got into some, trouble similar to LaKent Allen. Had a little, tumultuous offseason. Is practicing. Is the clear with a pecking order behind him, and a offense I predict to be much better than last year with Brian Harsin departing. I'm going with Jarquez Hunter. Back.
All right.
He was going earlier than that before he had the off season, off the field news. I think here at 7-9, the juice is worth the squeeze, considering the precipitous running back run that we've seen. We're getting pretty far down the board for RBs. What are we looking at? Probably about RB 28 to 30 range is what I'm looking at, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely down board. Yeah, we're definitely down board at this point. And you're looking at an Auburn offense, right? That's still they have to run first. Like, there's no way, whether it's Peyton Thorne or Robbie Ashford, that they're going to be relying on that quarterback to throw the ball downfield.
Yeah, absolutely. And from what I'm hearing for camp reports, it's been a 3-way dance. Holden Gariner is also getting some reps there. So you're right. It's a little bit of everything. You have the true pro style and Peyton Thorne, who comes over after spring. You have, Robbie Ashford, where they could barely throw a forward pass. They almost abandoned the pass in the second half of the season. I actually, I was at the Shrine Bowl, and I spoke with their left tackle, Killian Zierer, and asked him about the offense. And that's what he told me. He's like, look, we just had to embrace the run and just say, all right, we're giving it to Jarquez and Tank Bigsby, and we're letting them run it because they just couldn't get it together. It was a tough season all around at Auburn, but hey, that's why you bring in Hugh Freeze. No problem scoring points there in Liberty. So I'm
That's
hoping
not the problems that come with Hugh Freeze, that's for sure. Yeah,
there are problems. That's without a doubt about that. But gosh,
well,
look at
looks
that
like
CFF
you're
guys.
on the board
Devontae Walker,
here.
by the way, going in the 8th round. Josh,
Yeah, that was an
the
interesting.
cheater
That's what
that
I was
Josh
going to say.
is.
That's a big pick. With Walker
Josh,
currently
such a
ineligible.
cheater. Look at that. I can't believe he's taking Devontae Walker. He's supposed to be ineligible. If he's eligible, Josh should be forced to do a walk of shame. Can't believe he's doing things like that. Anyways.
I thought we were going to get a shot at him much later. We'll put it that way.
Agreed. Let's see how it goes. But fortunately, out of my 3 running backs I mentioned, they're all here.
Good.
So I'm going, I just went and took Hunter. It makes me think, do I even sit tight a little longer on my running backs because they might get it back to me? That's the thing I'm kicking around here. But I don't think I should. I think I'm going to take advantage of the news coming out of Iowa State, where Jirel Brock has been suspended as part of a vast, sweeping gambling investigation. He will possibly never play again. That leaves an absolute RB1 major load heaped upon Cartavius Norton, sophomore, 4-star, groomed to be the next Breece Hall in a tumultuous season. They're going to lean a lot on Cartavius Norton. They're going to have to, considering they lose in their starting running back and starting quarterback, with J.J. Cole probably being the starter. I'm going to take Cart Norton.
I like it. I like it.
So
hey, we're getting a request in the chat here for a Ric Flair woo. Can you provide that for us?
Woo! I
And
can't even
we're
give a
also
stretch.
getting
People
Bainbridge
walking
in
by
here.
here, they don't
Bainbridge
know what's going on.
wants me to ask
I feel
about
bad.
Gatson and
I'm
Dalvin
scaring the
Smith tight
fans.
end eligibility. Are we going down a rabbit hole here?
Oh, you talking about Dalvin Smith? Mike's shameless acquisition of Dalvin Smith there at 7-8.
Yeah.
Again, you want to talk about tight ends? Let's talk about Tito's. Let's talk about tight ends and title only. Mike Bainbridge has 2 of them. He's got Dalvin Smith and here's Bainbridge. He's chiming in too. He's proud of himself for that. He ought to be ashamed. But, he's sitting there right now at the Bainbridge residence with Bruno. Hey, Johnny, it's your pick here. With, Mike has an English bulldog, Bruno, that he's taking care of right now. He's on dog duty. So he figures he'll go and take tight ends and allow me to heckle him, which he so righteously deserves. Speaking of tight ends, Jatavius Sanders. There we go.
There you go.
I knew he was coming to. I strongly considered him with the last pick, but I was desperate on the running backs. I wanted 2 of my 3.
I feel like
Farouk,
we got a
2.
ventriloquism act here. We got John sitting at the computer, but Froton talking. We just need John to open
Johnny's
his mouth.
pick is coming up. That's how we got to do
There
these
you go.
things. Here we go. I'll be the man over the shoulder here.
There we go. Team effort here. I like it.
There we go. I'm his stalker.
Well,
That's a good
Froton,
pick,
you know what I
Jatavius
wanted to
Sanders,
ask
Johnny.
you about? When you took the Shuck pick, there was a lot of chatter from the comments from the viewers, and then you went and backed it up here with the Texas Tech stack. So are we feeling good overall about the Zach Kitley offense? And I know you talked about the juiced quarterback scoring factoring into that.
Are you done? Yeah, I'm still good. Well, again, I'm gonna reiterate what I said before. 6-point passing touchdown. These are the big boy leagues, okay? These aren't the watered down QB leagues. I believe in touchdown equality. I believe all touchdowns should be 6 points. You shouldn't be devaluing the most difficult position in all of college football, in all of football, and all of sports in general. I don't understand why we're doing that. So I'm going to have to make sure that goes down. He's my boss, DJ Short. It's literally the first time I met him. Hey, buddy. Nice to see you, DJ. I'm on air. That's John Love. So regardless, where was I? Yeah, so being as I wanted to attack high volume passing offenses, there isn't a higher volume offense than Zach Kitley's. There isn't any more powerful passing machine than we're going to see out of Texas Tech. And with Tyler Shuck having already been named the starter in June, but he didn't wait. He didn't string it out like last year. Like, maybe we're going to wait until. No. He has been the established starter for months now. With him piloting that big high octane offense, I wanted to put Jerand Bradley with him because I do think he's going to be the number 1 guy on the outside. We saw Mitchell Tinsley put up big numbers, last year, 2 years ago. There's room enough for plenty of action. I think Jerand Bradley's the one. And as discussed, if I'm going to go all hold hog on Texas Tech, I'm not going to go half stepping. Okay. 6-point passing touchdown, 20 yards. Okay. 1 point per 20 yards passing. I'm going high octane. And that's why I went with Preston Stone, because Rhett Lashley's back in town over there at SMU, and they're going to be flinging it around just like they did last year. He's ready to step in Tanner Mordecai's shoes because the prodigal son has returned, and he knew he was getting shoved in a locker by Preston Stone if he didn't transfer to Wisconsin.
I like it. Well, Froton, man, it's so good having you on here chatting it up with us. If you don't know, man, Froton's a cornerstone. He's a cornerstone of the game, of college football, of the NFL draft with NBC Sports. Man, it's such a pleasure. I can't wait to get there in person, chop it up with you in person. But thanks so much for being in the Kings Classic and then being on the stream with us today as well.
Well, thank you for broadcasting this, Matt. We obviously appreciate it. And we look at all the incredible comments we're getting out here. And thanks to my buddy here, Johnny, my former co-host partner, always, former and lifelong podcast partner. I appreciate you, buddy. Here is your stick back.
Awesome. And we'll catch you up a little bit here as we're transitioning back to John. We've had a lot of picks since Norton is the last one I think we announced. So we went Brendan Armstrong, who there was a lot of comments in the chat about. So we'll get John's thoughts on that when we circle back. Hawkins out of Texas State, Bryn out of Georgia Southern, Jareel Farouk out of Oklahoma, Jatavion Sanders, John took out of Texas, Voisin out of Southern Alabama, Hunt, another tight end, started a little tight end run here out of Ball State. I went Dorian Singer and Evan Stewart back-to-back. Jaden Ott, running back out of Cal. RJ Maryland, another tight end out of SMU. J. Michael Sturdivant, and then was John's pick. And then Michael Pratt went off the board to Jared. quickly here, John, I thought, both of these picks I leaned into. I was motivated by Shane earlier talking about leaning into risk. And I think the opportunity to have a Singer Williams stack, stacking with the 101 and the 812 is a pretty nice situation. And although I'm not sold on Bobby Petrino and the Texas A&M offense, I like Connor Wegman. There's enough pieces in there. Evan Stewart, I think, did well for the situation he was in last year. And so, as the chat pointed out, touchdowns might be a problem, but I'm excited for his upside and his potential there.
Matt, when I was off, I was, talking to people, and I was talking to Zach, and he's a big Debbie guy. And, we were talking about Shane with college production, and we both mentioned Evan Stewart. We love the talent. I have questions about Jimbo Fisher and that offense and Connor Wegman. But Matt, you're in the 9th round. You're going to draft on upside talent. If Bobby Petrino gets that Aggie offense back on track, you are looking at a guy, he's a top 3 wide receiver in what would be the 2025 class. I think it's a 2025 class. There's no question about the absolute ability of Stewart. Just can the system, kind of shackled by Jimbo in the past, can it do it? But you know what? If you're going for upside here, you take Stewart. If it doesn't hit, it's what is that, 9th round? I can't see on my screen right now. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah,
and
we're in the
Dorian
9th.
Singer. Yeah, Dorian Singer. You got Caleb Williams, dude. If you get the 3 40-yard touchdowns throughout the season to Dorian Singer and he's in your lineup in a flex, it's a no-brainer also. I love those kinds of picks.
John, going back a little bit, talking about Brennan Armstrong. Of course, Armstrong now at NC State. He had a huge production at Virginia. I know we talked about him on our QB rankings episode, so you can go and get the in-depth look there. But just kind of off the top here briefly, Brennan Armstrong, are you, coming in at, what was that, the 805? Are you good with that value there?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the more I've looked into Robert Anae and what he's doing right now he's at North Carolina State, right? And what he's bringing in around Brennan Armstrong in the beginning of the year or the beginning of the process, probably started drafting in March. I was a little concerned because I do like Brennan Armstrong from a college fantasy standpoint. And I didn't know what they would be doing at the wide receiver position, all that, but I think they're bringing in parts, they're bringing in pieces. The reports are positive that Armstrong and Anae are going to implement that offense. I don't expect it to be as explosive as they were at Virginia in 2021, but man, if he hits with Anae and everything says he should, I like that in the 8th round.
All right, we're going to go ahead and bring
coming off the board.
Yeah, we're going to bring in Josh here with perfectly timed here with that turn selection of the CFF guys. And Josh, it's great timing. I see you're maybe wearing the appropriate color to make the pick here, but the chat has been blowing up about Quinn Ewers, the effects that he would have then on Xavier Worthy, of Jatavian Sanders. So, I mean, right off the bat, let's throw you right into the fire. Tell us about Quinn Ewers. Tell us about what the Texas offense is going to look like this year.
Well, it certainly helps when you're in Austin, Texas, to have a little bit of an insight into what's going on. And, it's interesting. There's guys here in Austin, beat writers, that they're just realistic. Like, I think Texas gets, like, their fan base gets this, stick of, like, being, like, overrating their team. But that's not really with, like, local beat writers. And you have local beat writers saying this is the most talented team in the last 20 years. So, maybe not last 20 years, but since the Vince Young era, essentially, and then 09, 010. So, Quinn Ewers, everything that's being said is like he's completely transformed everything about him. They're predicting 35 touchdowns, 3,700 yards passing. I mean, so in a 6-point TD, I think he's good value at this point. And they're saying this is the best wide receiver room they've had in the last, Sark behind doors is comparing his wide receiver room to 2018, 2019 Bama. So you just have all this stuff kind of coming together that, for me, like, I think people are going to regret not having more shares in the Texas offense personally.
Yeah, I like it, man. Hey, listen, I say all the time, football's better when Texas is good, right? So I'm hoping it comes together this year for sure. Talking strategy here, I'm really interested. You went 3 wide receivers to start the draft. And that's definitely not the trend across for the other analysts. So what was your thought process? Certainly I'm sure picking at 112 may have influenced that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, some of it is you have to know as an analyst where you're good and where you struggle. And I think I struggle with identifying wide receivers later. And so just pick them early, and then I think I can get value at running back at later. And I've shown a track record of that. So I'll stick with what I know.
I like that. But one guy that you did take at least a little bit later here, you leaned into the risk here with Tez Walker, taking him at 8-1. Are you feeling confident that he'll get that eligibility back?
Well, I mean, yes, I am feeling confident because I think UNC is feeling very confident. And I think their insiders are feeling confident. And so I got sources there that I trust them. So I'll take them there. But then also it's like, man, 8th round pick. We're going to look back and half of these guys are going to be duds. And then we just churn the waiver wire, as Shane talked about earlier. So it's like, if Walker doesn't work out, no big deal. If he does, then I just got a 3rd round pick in the 8th round. So,
all right, I dig it, John. I'm hogging the mic here. I'll let
it's
you
all right.
there.
First, Josh, congratulations on the new family member. I follow you. We chat on Twitter. That's amazing. So happy for you and your family. I think you have 4 children now. So congratulations on all that. I'm trying not to buy the Texas hype because, they can get out of control. But I love the value of Quinn Ewers there. I think it's the upside in a Sarkisian offense is just tremendous. If Xavier Worthy doesn't drop like 3 home run balls from Quinn Ewers last year, or if Quinn is just a little bit more accurate, I mean, his numbers would have been better. He did miss, I think it was those 3 games after the Alabama hit. So I think the upside there and the talent around him, and because we have a 6-point passing touchdown, he could throw 35 this year if everything goes right. And the reason I'm saying that is that's why I got Ja'Tavion Sanders. I think, dude, when you look at these wide receivers that Texas have, I mean, Sark's a good coach. How are you going to cover Ja'Tavion Sanders in the middle of the field? I mean, I keep finding Ja'Tavion Sanders because I got to believe in Shark. I got to believe in the upgrade of talent at wide receiver. So I think you did a great job there. And anyone, Josh is at Fantasy Points. His CFF information out there is incredible. And look, he's the only one who did 3 wide receivers. Matt mentioned it. Josh has won a ton of fantasy football leagues. I've drafted in with him for years. I kind of expected him on the back end. I know when Josh is at the back end, he loves to double tap those wide receivers. So I think, hey, you win a ton, Josh. Anyone who's looking at this board and they want to try a different type of strategy, Josh is one with it constantly. I think you just have to have conviction that you're going to find value with the running back and quarterback.
Yeah, and here's the reality, John. Like when we're playing with these guys, right, with guys that we all respect, we know they know their stuff. It's like you got to take risk because you're either going to get like first place or you're going to get last, and it's like the middle doesn't matter, right? And so it's like with these guys, you got to take risk, and that's what I'm doing here. Is I'm trying to really draft an upside team, and play into some of the PPR and 6-point later at running back and quarterback.
And I think, weren't you undefeated, or you were 10-1 the first year in the CFF Kings class? I mean, Josh's team the first year was unbelievable. And I think you had a bad break in the playoffs or something, right? So Josh is very good, everyone.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, John. Thank you for the kind words, for sure.
I just came up.
Speaking of risk here, Kyle McCord going off the board 10:05 elicited some reaction here from the viewers. It's a good example of we're pretty sure that's what's going to happen, right? And so Bainbridge picking him up as his 3rd quarterback here. That's a pretty nice setup. And we are starting to get into the point here. JD took Jalen Daniels as his 3rd quarterback. So in a 2-quarterback league, I think we might be starting to see a little bit of a run here.
Yeah. And I mean, I was just going to say with Kyle McCord, it's like guys like that, these are really the guys that can win you leagues, because just pick up Devin Brown at the end of the draft and call it a day. And then you just got the Ohio State quarterback position. And I think a lot of that is where these guys win, is when you can find that value later on in drafts. And Kyle McCord can certainly be a value here in the 11th round for sure. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, John.
Oh no, I love Kyle McCord here. I mean, Josh, we've been around long enough. I mean, Ohio State. This is probably the latest I've seen a Buckeye quarterback be drafted. And I think there is some trepidation with McCord. He doesn't get you a lot of points with his legs, but man, when you're throwing the football to Marvin Harrison, Emeka Ibuka, I mean, if the young man stays on the field, you do have 40-point upside in a 6-point passing touchdown. I think that's a great gamble right here. That McCord and Ewers click. I like that. Those are the types of guys that win you leagues. Josh said it perfectly.
Yeah, and I think too. I think with your pick with KJ Jefferson, right, John? Like we saw this with DTR last year. I think sometimes people get bored of certain players and they think that like they want to go pick upside. But the KJ Jeffersons of the world are the DTRs last year, where you can get them in the 8th, 9th round or 7th round. Like those are phenomenal picks that like go for the guys that other people are bored watching. Like Frank Harris is a little bit like that, right? He drops to the middle of the second maybe because people are bored. Like is he going to do it again or? But I think, man, those guys, like, they win you leagues.
Sometimes I wonder if it's just like we all want the newness. So sometimes when you have upperclassmen who've been really good for 2 years or a year, people are like, I want the new bright shining toy. And there's value in these young men who played 2 years of college football and they're just good players. Like sometimes, we all want the guy. We want Caleb Williams, but there's not a lot of Caleb Williams out there. And Matt, who did you take for your 2 picks?
Yeah, I went Jalen White out of Georgia Southern. Felt like that was a good volume load there for the last pick in the 10th round. And then I had to leave the draft with a Duke here, so I took Reggie Brown out of JMU. Stepping into that lead wide receiver role. I mean, you guys, JMU was picked to be the division. I believe it was their division or their conference favorite 2 years into being into the FBS here. So I'm all about the Dukes here. Happy to push some propaganda there as well. Before we keep going, I just want to point out that our viewers have remained so high throughout this entire draft. We're over an hour into this live stream. So just a huge shout out. The chat is blowing up here on the side. I know not everyone can see the chat here, but it's blowing up. So just wanted to give a quick shout out to everybody with that.
Hey, Matt, I got a question for you.
Yep.
Did you go to JMU?
I did not go to JMU, no.
Okay.
So, but there's a little bit of regional overlap there with, being at Tennessee. So I had a few friends that went to JMU. So I have a little affinity for the university.
Okay, I went to JMU, and so
there you go.
Did we not make that connection yet? Like,
no. I actually, it was one of the schools. It was one of my final options when I was in undergrad too. So it's a beautiful campus. I love it. So I like to share that affinity for the Dukes when I can.
Love it.
Let me just say right now that the room is jamming here. If everyone hears from my microphone, we're literally in the Hall of Fame. When people are going to the bus room, they're walking by, they're looking at us, people are coming in. If you heard some cheers, we just figured out how to put the draft. There's a giant screen TV, so now you can see the results of the draft. So it's exciting, man. We hope people can join us next year and future years. This is just simply amazing being out here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And Josh, I see that you guys are growing the college fantasy football info at Fantasy Points. Tell us some of the new things and how big you're growing at Fantasy Points.
Yeah, man. Like, so they, the team was generous enough after last year to allow us to expand a little bit with our coverage. And so, we're going to try to focus a lot on DFS and props, like the things that people can win money on immediately. Is the type of things that we want to focus on. So we're going to cover basically every DFS slate that's out there. And so we're really excited about that. We're going to have projections. We're going to have matchup reports that I'm super pumped about. They're going to really break down how much each defense has given up to the opposing running backs down to the RB1, RB2, RB3. And so it's going to be super, I think, helpful both in CFF, but also in DFS as people are looking into that as well. So we're really excited about what we got going on.
And I love to hear that because I got to tell you, I love draft season for college football. Of course, it's so fun leading up to it, man. But there is nothing like getting those, jamming those lineups in. You set them on Friday night. You wake up on Saturday. You spend all morning tinkering with them, right up until the deadline. and then you get wiped out on the first slate, so you go right back in. You play the 3:30 slate, right? You get wiped out, and you make your money back on that 7 o'clock slate. It's what makes the season so fun. So it's so exciting to hear there'll be another resource out there. Great resource, to be able to help, build those lineups and make them perfect.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I really appreciate that.
All right. Looks like
Josh, thanks for joining us, Josh.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
All right. Thanks, Josh.
Yeah. See ya.
All right. Here.
Hey, Matt,
catch us
sorry,
up a
we
little
are
bit.
just jamming. It's exciting out here. Just met some nice people, wanted to say hello. And everyone, if you see me looking down, I still do my drafts with player rankings. So I'm crossing people out my sheet, trying to find rankings here. So I'm not trying to ignore the viewers or everything, but like this, if you've never done a fantasy draft live or seen one, it's just awesome. It's the most incredible feeling. Obviously, I do most of them online, but man, to be at a live draft with people talking, chatting, moving around, it's just incredible. So please come out and join us. I hope Matt's going to join us one day. That's one of the ultimate goals that we have here, but we know that logistics happen, life happens. Family always before fantasy, and I'm a big fantasy guy, but family first. So we understand why people can't always make it, but please, if you can in the future, join us. This hobby is growing, everyone. I know if you're watching, you probably like college fantasy football, but reach out to your friends. Get your friends into a league, play it, expand the hobby. It's just fantastic. John is old school with paperless. Love it. Yes, I am. I am old school.
Just catching us up here a little bit, and then we have Tommy on deck here. So we'll get Tommy on here after we do a little bit of a recap. But at 11-2, it was Lad McConkey and then Chevron Cordero. I think that was perfect, speaking to people folks might be bored of, right? Cordero, they're coming off the board in the 11th. Caleb Johnson at 11-4. After we talked to Tommy, John, I'm going to circle back to that one because I like that pick, but I don't think it's consensus. And then we had Harvey come off the board 11-5. Conyers out of Arizona State at 11-6. Rudolph, wide receiver out of NIU at 10-7. 10-8 is Marshawn Lloyd, the running back now at the West Coast, USC. Rosner 11-9, EJ Smith 11-10, Vidal 11-11, and the picks are coming in so fast. Eurosic at 11-12 here. They're coming in live as I'm trying to talk about them. But let's go ahead here and let's bring on Tommy in particular here, because Tommy has the best jersey of the day, of course, rocking the fellow power team here.
That's right. That's right. That's right. How's it going, guys?
Good. No.
Jared's over here kicking me now because apparently I took somebody he wanted.
All right, Tommy, tell us how you're feeling about the team so far, man. We're pretty far into this thing now.
I thought everybody was pretty crazy for allowing Ali and Kavorian Barnes to slip as far as they did to me. I was super happy with grabbing those two guys in the first 3 rounds. Then after that, I kind of waited a little bit on wide receiver, but I'm actually kind of really happy about the wide receivers I've taken.
Yeah, I mean, the wide receiver, you're getting a lot of volume there. There was a lot of chatter, too, in the chat about what the wide receiver 1 on the Florida State offense is going to look like. I think it's absolutely Keon Coleman. I think that we're going to laugh at the fact that it's a discussion in 2 months' time here. So, I mean, at 10-2, why don't we talk a little bit more about that Keon Coleman pick? I think it's a smash play.
I do, too. I think Coleman is their wide receiver 1. I think he's going to have a really big year. They have a lot of weapons there at Florida State, with Coleman and Wilson and Jaheim Bell transferring there. But I think Coleman's going to have a really big year.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. We're getting the full party atmosphere here now going on in the background. I love to see it. The wheels are coming off here as we get into the 12th round. We had Gene Lee, Elridge, Harris, McCray, Reese, and now Maccabee coming off the board here in rapid succession in the 12th round. So it looks like we have 2 quarterbacks here, if I'm scrolling up correctly. Are we worried at all about that QB3 spot, or what are we thinking here?
There's still guys available. I was really wanting Taylon Green to continue to fall to me in the 11th, but then Zach took him there at the end of the 10th. So he was going to be my QB3, but so goes life.
It's, speaking of getting sniped here, you had Brew McCoy off the board, one pick before you. Were you looking at him, or are you kind of like me where you're like, I don't know what piece of this wide receiver room that we really
Right.
want at this point?
Well, there's going to be 4 wide receivers there who have a big piece of the pie, so it's just going to be really hard to tell on a week by week basis who's going to get it.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing. Folks have kind of talked about, each, there's over the last couple of years, right? There's kind of been like the guy, right? Where it was Velus Jones and then, the Hyatt and then Tillman kind of split. It feels like this year the talent is spread out more. And so I do think it's going to kind of be a matchup dependent situation. And I think Heupel and the offensive staff have the skill set to be able to make that tailoring approach.
Yeah, I think if anybody does emerge, I think it's going to be someone like a Dante Thornton. 6'5", and the way he runs, he has the skill set for that offense. So if anybody does break out, I think it's going to be him.
All right, I'm tagging in John here because I have not thought about this selection at all. And I'm on deck.
Oh, no problem, Matt. You got back-to-back, so I'll take you. So, Tom, this is the first year you joined us. Why don't you tell the viewers, how's your experience coming down the Hall of Fame here, drafting live with everyone? What do you think? Tell us, what are your thoughts as we go about this, just the enjoyment and the league and everything that we're doing?
I love it. The atmosphere is great. Froton brings the energy. It's fantastic. The room they have us in is absolutely incredible also.
Go ahead, Tom. I think we got you back. It froze for a second.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was going to say the room that they have us in is absolutely incredible also. Really digging it.
Yeah, we couldn't ask. So I didn't get the whole, because I was looking at my queue because I was trying to get. Do you have 2 or 3 quarterbacks at this point, my friend?
I have 2. I'll be looking to grab another couple of them here shortly.
So I'm in the same position. I just noticed that I have not addressed the backup quarterback position, and we all know injuries, but there is value on the board. Tim and I are in the same boat. No one's going to talk names because we are competing against each other, but we understand. I think most of the teams have 3, but I could be wrong. I've just been looking quickly on the board. Is there a position right now that you think you would like to address more depth at, other than the quarterback? Like, do you have a tight end?
Tight end? I don't have a tight end yet, so
okay.
I'm tight end. If I'm not getting those first couple of them, then I'm really waiting to pretty late in the draft to grab one.
So here's a good question. If you're going to do late tight end, and this year I like the middle. I drafted, I think, in the 7th or 8th round of tight end, and that's where I've been drafted. But I've done years of I call it dumpster diving once you're in like round 12. Do you just have, like, in your queue, are you the type of player who has 4 tight ends in there that you just literally don't care about? Or do you have one tight end that you are specifically targeting that you hope that you can grab? What is your strategy here on that?
Well, currently I don't have a single tight end in my queue. I'll start building that here in the next couple rounds.
So Tom is just, I haven't thought about it too much, but you will be working on it. But so do you think there's like 3 or 4 tight ends that you feel good about right now? Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's several guys, especially G5 guys, who are going to put up pretty big numbers. So I don't have an issue waiting till late.
Yeah, I love what you just said, and maybe for our viewers who don't know, there's value with the G5 programs, and you talk about G5 tight ends, that's an overlooked position. People are not looking at that, and I agree with you. There's value. I mean, I saw someone took R.J. Reynolds earlier, who's at SMU. I love him at the G5 program. So I won't talk about anyone who might still be remaining, but there is value. And Matt, who did you take back-to-back there?
Yeah, I don't know, man. No, I think, the further the season goes on, the more it seems like Jackson Dart is going to be the guy at Ole Miss. So I'm willing to lean into that volatility a little bit in the 12th round, because if I can get a pocket passing quarterback for the Ole Miss offense and a 6-point touchdown, that's going to be a pretty nice situation for me. And then I decided to double down on the tight end situation. I like the Maryland offense this year. I think it's kind of got some sneaky upside with Tagovailoa coming back, but not a ton, not like a wide receiver that I love. And so I think Deitch has the opportunity to kind of be in that hybrid tight end role and get some touchdowns. So I decided to try to stack my tight end room a little bit here. I normally miss on tight end in CFF, and so I'm trying not to miss on it in this league in particular. So kind of what Tommy was saying of like being able to kind of piece those elements together. I don't want to have to do that because I usually do.
So it's funny, Matt and Tom. People always complain about the tight end in the NFL. In the college fantasy football, if you miss on it, it can be the waiver wire is barren at the tight end sometimes. Now, we might get a tight end who breaks out that we don't know. That does happen, but in 15 years, it is definitely the rarity. But it can be hard. And anyone who plays college and NFL, I would say the college tight end is more challenging, other than like the top 5. Pretty much if you played this long enough, there's always been a top 5. But after that, it can get hard. But there are players out there if you know the player pool.
All right. I think for the sake of our rotating guest, Tommy, we'll look to get you back in here towards the end as well. But we got Dwight waiting, and we want to make sure to get him in. But thanks for being a part of this in your inaugural season. Thanks for jumping on to talk about it. And can't wait for our big season coming up here.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you, Tommy.
All right, we'll get Dwight on now. Dwight, welcome in.
I just like to say first, I'm still mad at Dwight for sniping me on Austin Reed. So I don't know, if I should invite you back next year. But other than that, Dwight, you're an amazing guy.
13 rounds, no P5 players.
Ooh. You don't have any?
None.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Whoa,
look at that, huh?
Screw big college football, baby.
We're working down the list here. Western Kentucky, Ohio, Southern Alabama, Ohio, UTSA, UCF.
I know. I thought
he tried to cheat us. NIU, Southern Alabama, future ACC member SMU.
I know. I thought for sure that I'm like, has UCF gone yet? Crap. Oh, well. I tried.
He tried to pull it on us here. No.
Oh, you know what? I'll give you the grandfather. Remember the grandfather clause? We'll let you have the grandfather clause on UCF.
Right. It's
a good point, though, because sometimes we get caught up in like the more popular names, but the value tends to be in the G5 guys, right?
Yeah, I'm trying, man. It was kind of a fun little strategy. So, oh well, UCF. Darn it, I forgot they moved. I know. I should know that, but.
So, Dwight, 13 rounds your strategy.
How are you feeling? Like, if you had to grade your draft so far, what would you give yourself?
Yeah.
I think I've got it B-ish. I mean, I definitely was kind of forced into a different. Because I was trying to like my first 5-6 rounds I really like that. I like the value I got with Bangura and I like Webb, and I'm trying to get my screen to click here. Wiggless, Clark. I mean, I got a bunch of guys that I really, really like. And I like my tight end duo of Maryland. And who else did I grab? I just grabbed somebody I thought. Maybe not yet. Okay. I like my second tight end too, whoever I get. So yeah, it's going good, man. This is fun. I love this stuff. I wish I could be up in the main room a little more, kind of bouncing all around. It's kind of fun, kind of crazy, taking in all the atmosphere. And this is just nuts. I love it. To be in like the birthplace of football and to do this is just a blessing, something I never thought I would ever do. So it's pretty sweet.
So Dwight, I know you're doing the IDP draft. Where are you guys in the IDP compared to where we are? And is there actual live broadcast of the IDP draft here?
I don't think so. Us college guys. Our college guys are always faster. I mean, we're only in round 8. We're in round 8. We're in round 18 of IDP, and that's with a 1-minute clock.
And you started an hour before us, right?
2 hours in, and we've gotten 18 rounds. Wow. 2 hours of CFF guys, we could probably get 30 rounds in. So, yeah, it's going a little slow, even with a 1-minute clock. It's yeah.
Even with the 1-minute clock.
Isn't that crazy? That's nuts, man. I don't know how we do it. The math doesn't add up. I'm not Rain Man, but it doesn't add up. I mean, come on.
Yeah, Dwight's embracing the full Fantasy Football Expo experience, that's for sure. And, John's mentioned it a couple times, but so cool to see the upgrade that the CFF Kings Classic got this year. And I think it speaks to John's advocacy for CFF, but also the growth of the game in general. And I think that's what's really awesome as well. The fact that this live stream is blowing up here, we have a ton of viewers, a full conversation happening on this side that I'm trying to keep up with and give shout outs for. It's such a cool example of the work that Dwight's doing and John's doing and all of our analysts here throughout the year are doing in order to grow the game, right? And it's so cool. So I think this is I think Dwight running around is a great example of that.
Oh man, I was watching Dwight run around and I was sweating just watching him. I'm just sitting in the chair here broadcasting with Dwight, man. He has the energy of don't let him fool you. This man is old, but man, he has the energy of a 22-year-old. I ain't running around like Dwight, man, too.
And on top of this, I'm waiting on my MRI results. I probably have a torn meniscus, so I'm kind of hobbling. I'm hobbling around as quick as I can, man. It's starting to really hurt. It was feeling pretty decent this week,
man. You can't keep him down.
I can't be going down.
Are you technically outside right now recording?
I am. Yeah, it's too loud inside. Oh my gosh, you kidding me? It's loud in there. So loud.
It's a party in there in the draft room.
Yeah, it's a party out here too. Look, we got all those people walking by. It's a party everywhere. It's all a big party. There we go.
Yeah, there we go.
College football. Woo!
Fantasy football.
It's been awesome.
I love it, man.
One of my goals is just to walk around after we're done drafting here, just to walk around, see all the people, see what's going on. You know, so it's exciting. We're so glad. Dwight, tell us some of the things that you do for Campus to Canton and all, because he's wonderful. He did our video. If you've seen the Kings Classic video on Twitter, Dwight's the master behind that with the music, the images, all that. It's unbelievable, everyone. But what are you doing in the college and just fantasy space in general?
Mainly, I'm like a behind the scenes guy now. I mean, I still write occasionally, but mostly it's editing. I edit like all the articles that come through Campus to Canton, a lot of them that come through the Dynasty Nerds. I love doing the video work. It's become a lot more fun to me. I'd love to do some more hype videos for college type stuff. I really love that type of stuff. I've loved more being behind the scenes. I don't podcast as much anymore. I really like just being behind. I don't need to be in front and getting all the credit or anything like that. I just love helping any way I can. I find time at work. My real job is an IT job, so I have a lot of time at work to, do tinkering on stuff like that. And consume as much content as possible. I mean, if you guys knew how many articles I read and videos I watched a week, I mean, I'm always consuming. There's so much good out there. Especially college now. I mean, I'm still watching college football games from last year. I mean, I'm just always consuming, man. Always consuming something. So, yeah, I enjoy being more behind the scenes. I'm sorry.
I'll say this, Dwight, you're not behind the scenes in my book because I've known you. You're out front. You do so much for everyone. And everyone, please, Dwight is a great guy. If you see him at the FF Festival or the Expo this weekend, if you see him on Twitter, follow him. He's talented. He's good. He knows his football. And I will say, Dwight's going to be mad at me for this, but we had one of the greatest college football games in the history of college football. It was that game. It was Houston, and I had Clayton Tune. Who was your quarterback in that game?
Oh, it was Harris, wasn't it? Harris versus Tune?
Yes. Yeah. And I remember I was all bumming because he went out and Dwight was scoring points like crazy, but I had Tune. And I think I beat Dwight by like 4 points. It was like 262 to 258. And both quarterbacks scored over 70 points. My friends, if you have not played college football and you like offense, man, where else can you get 70-point performance from two quarterbacks? It can't happen in the NFL, but it happens in college fantasy football.
Yeah, and it was like a Thursday night or Friday night too, so it was like the only game on. And I always bring up that to people. I'm like, if you don't play, this is what happens. This is the type of fun shenanigans that we get into in college fantasy. And I've been talking to a lot of people about it. That I still feel like college is one of the few fantasy avenues where you can still get an edge by doing research and by playing matchups. And I feel like it's so much more challenging, like Dynasty used to be. So. Oh, I'm on the clock. Hey, let me see. Who should I go?
Well, I'll because I've been saying it for years, Dwight. This is still an edge. But you know what? With 133 teams, you can work people and you can work the injury reports and you can work the depth charts.
You can get an edge,
You know, in the NFL by week 11, if you're in a competitive league, we've all been there. Is there even anyone on the freaking waiver wire in the NFL leagues if you're in a competitive? This is so much fun. You can still find waiver wire starters in week 12 of college fantasy football. Did you pick, Dwight? Who did you make live?
I decided since I broke the seal, I'm just going to keep it now. I've been looking at a couple wide receivers for a minute, so I'm like, dang it, Boston College should be. No, I'm just kidding. They're not P5. Oh, I'm going to get some hate for that one. Anyways, so yeah.
And I took Shador Sanders. I'm buying the Kool-Aid. I think he's going to have a big season. He's my third quarterback. If everyone just before Dwight, so I love Shador Sanders. I have him in my top 30 quarterbacks, and I'll take him as my third quarterback off the board, hoping for upside.
All right, let's
Look
see
at all
here.
the comments we're getting, huh, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, blowing up still. A lot of interest here in that Robbins pick. I think that was a good pick from Jared. I had him in my queue. Literally, I put him in my queue, and then he went out because Jared made that pick. A lot of picks here we've made since we've last recapped. So just real quick, 13-2, I think, was the last pick we talked about. Nate Noel, Sam Pickney, 13-3, Trevor Etienne, 13-4, 13-5, Matheson, wide receiver out of Western Kentucky. Grayson McCall, 13-6. I think that's some nice upside there for JD, who we have on deck here. Malik Hornsby, quarterback out of Texas State. Jalen Knighton, running back at SMU. Taylor, the tight end out of LSU. Sam Hartman, 13-10 out of Notre Dame. Johnny Wilson comes off the board 4 rounds later than his teammate, but to the same team, Tom. So he decided to double dip there, 13-11. 13-12 is Casey Thompson. Don't forget about Casey Thompson at FAU, folks. Chandler Morris, 14-1. Mitch Griffiths, who is the incoming quarterback at Wake Forest, 14-2. Lacey, George Smith, Martin, Allen, Robbins, Shador Sanders, Ryan O'Keefe, and 80 Mitchell gets us to 14-12. John, as I'm making this pick here, I'll have you wrap up with Dwight because we have JD on deck. We've pined about Dwight's great work with Campus to Canton, with the Dynasty Nerds. He rotates in with Skip Newton on the Debbie Big Board on our feed as well. So I'll let you go ahead and wrap that up, but just wanted to make sure we properly shouted out Dwight and all the awesome work he's doing.
Thanks, Matt, and good luck with your 2 picks. I know it's tough. Everyone who hasn't done this, man, when you broadcast a live draft and you're on the turn, you got to have a lot of players in the queue, and you can get a little bit trapped at times. Trust me, I've been there. And Dwight, man, you're the best to have you join us. It was so good to see you. I'll also see you later today, I'm sure, walking around and at the expo tomorrow. Is there anything else you would like to promote just before you get off? And with your amazing, maybe we can stay on and get your live pick, and then we'll bring JT on. Do you have anyone in your queue that you're looking for right now, my friend? And Maddie sniped. Zach is a little upset. I guess you got one of his guys there, Matt.
I'm interested to hear which one. Was it Gordon or Small that Zach wanted?
Who'd he snipe, Gordon or Small? Gordon, he said. He wanted Ollie Gordon.
Yeah, I thought Gordon in the 14th was a pretty good value there.
You know, I have a ton of Gordon from early in the season. Like sometimes when you look at your rostership, I realized like in 5 of the first 6 drafts, I drafted Gordon, so I kind of held back a little bit. But I think, hey, the reports in training camp, he's the guy. Like he's going to get the guy for the Cowboys. So I think that's a great value, Matt. Anything you'd like to promote, Dwight? Or no, we're waiting for your pick. We'll wait for your pick.
I'm okay.
Live,
yeah, I'm good. Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you, Dwight.
Who do you want to
I'll hop
draft
up there in a few
Zach
minutes.
can take them in front of you. Tell us who you want right now.
Who I want? I don't know. I still like. There's some really good running back value on the board. Some good. I'm surprised at the running backs in my queue.
There are good. That's what I was just thinking too. That's why I doubled down on them.
But I have like 5 of them, so I don't know if I need another running back. And then I like a couple different receivers here. Possibly Shepard from Vanderbilt. Still think Miles Price could be something this year. Still some decent value out there. So
remember Miles Price? He was like a 4th round pick last year.
Yeah, I know. I just this is one like last year when we were done with the draft. I was like, oh my god, I still have 40 guys in the queue. Like, let's keep going. So it's I still have I think about 60 in my queue right now. So yeah. I'm still
Thank you,
trucking
RJ, for
along.
the shout out. We do think CFF is the best college game out there.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Dwight. I think we're
All right,
gonna
thanks, guys.
rotate
Yep.
JD
See you,
on
Dwight. Have a
here
great
for
day.
you.
Thanks, thank you, guys.
All right. Just want to give a quick thank you to RJ. Very nice shout out for the rookie big board. It is a blast to be able to host this for our third year in a row hosting this, right, John? Third year, second year, third year?
Yeah, third year in a row live. We've been
Yeah.
here live all 3 years in Canton at the FF Expo.
I like to do a little bit better each year.
Cool,
So
thank
thanks, RJ. We appreciate you watching. JD, welcome in. What a scenic environment
JD.
here.
Yeah, it's not quite the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but it's nice out here in the morning in California before it gets 100 degrees. So I might as well sit out here while I still can.
Very nice.
What-
In
what
California,
are
but
you out there
rocking
right
the
now,
Ducks
10?
hat, I see.
Yeah,
10:30.
it's 9:40 right here. So the draft started at 8, but I like that. You get the day started. You know, it's a little bit different. Got to go to Canton the last 2 years. It was a blast. Got to meet everyone. So yeah, a little bit of change of scenery here, but I'll be back.
Well, we do miss you,
Awesome.
but congratulations. I know you just had your second baby this spring, so congratulations on the family growing. That's amazing. So we totally understand why family first, and I love fantasy, but families first. So you made the right, and hey, nice day in California to be drafting outside. So tell us what
Yeah.
you're doing in your draft strategy today, JD.
Yeah, this one's gone a little different than I normally do. Usually I don't go so wide receiver heavy. So I got what I get 4 in the top 6 rounds. But I was feeling pretty good about that. I think when the draft started with 4 quarterbacks, I was kind of like, okay, you could kind of already get the wheels turning. Like I'm just going to load up at RB wide receiver if that's what's going to fall to me. So I did that. These middle rounds have been tough though, man. There's a lot of good drafters in here. I feel like my queue every time I said it, whatever's in my queue right now is not going to be there by my next pick when I'm on. So it's been a little tough, but I'm on the clock here, so I got a decision to make.
Yeah, you almost have to throw. I mean, you don't throw ADP out the window, but you can't get too attached to ADP. I find, especially in the Kings Classic draft, because we all know the ADP, right? And so you kind of have to be willing to just go for it a little bit.
Yeah, people are too tough. Like if you're expecting guys are going to fall, they're not going to fall because people are too smart in this room.
Yeah,
So I had one
absolutely.
question, JD, because he was in my queue and I thought you got a good value. Tell us why you went after Davis Brim, even though we like him, but tell us the viewers, because I don't think his name's popped up on the show, and I think he has amazing upside. So talk about Davis Brim this year.
Yeah, so Brand, he's one guy. I know you were talking with Mike when he was on about the change in passing touchdowns to 6, right? That totally changes your philosophy. Froton was talking about it as well. And so for Brand, that's the guy like I immediately circled. I know Mike brought up McCord, Froton, Stone, and Shuck. Exact same way. They're going to throw the ball, 40 times a game. They're going to be top 5 in pass attempts. It's a virtual certainty. They kind of caught me off guard last year when they transitioned, because they transitioned from the triple option to the air raid, which is as big of a transition we've ever seen. So I thought they were going to stink, and they didn't stink, man. They were awesome. So I like Bryn this year coming in with the 6-point passing touchdowns.
Yeah, that was one of, when you understand the triple option, I was in the same boat. I'm like, I get that Clay Helton's here and I get that he's going to do the air raid, but I'm like, do they just have the personnel to transition from triple option to air raid? But they did it and it was great. So now I didn't look because I'm drafting people on. Did you take a wide receiver? Do you philosophically like to have a quarterback wide receiver? Did you take one from Georgia Southern here?
Yeah, I did. So I took Derwin Burgess in the, let's see what round. I got him in the 5th round. So he was kind of their wide receiver 1 last year. He only played 10 games. Otherwise, he would have gotten close to like 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns. So that's one I like to stack. I think sometimes people are a little too eager to stack, because in college fantasy, you get a lot of the rushing quarterbacks, right? And if they're rushing for the touchdown, you don't get the stack. But in this league, it's 10 points, man. That's a 10-pointer, 6 for the passing, 4 for the receiving, right? So for sure, especially with the rule change, I'm more likely to stack. That's usually not something I circle, but in a league like this, it's definitely something I circled.
Yeah, I think, you just said something very important. I'm sorry, Matt, to interrupt. I think you have to let the stack come natural. I think sometimes, and I've seen this in NFL fantasy football, and I think people aren't addressing it. Yes, strategically stacking can help your team, but I don't want to force it. And I think you had good value in an underrated stack. And I think that's what we need to talk about more, just as a hobby. Like, yes, so I don't have a wide receiver from Arkansas because I'm not comfortable with, Raheem Sanders and KJ Jefferson. I'm not going to stack Arkansas, right? You have a running quarterback and you have a first round potential pick at running back, but you got a nice stack in an air raid, which we know the quarterback might run 2 or 3 touchdowns in, might. So I agree, but I don't think people say stack, but it depends who you're stacking and when you're drafting players. So I love that. Matt, what do you got for JD?
Well, I just wanted to ask JD, we had a question from the chat, and again, keep these coming in. We want to hear from you. The question on the UCLA backfield, since you took that Carson Steele pick, what was that, round 1207? How do you feel like that UCLA backfield is going to break down?
I think my thoughts on her is that like nobody knows. Like I've seen this week, Harden's running with the ones. Yeah, it's Chip Kelly. I think at the end of the day, no one's known what Chip Kelly is going to do for the longest time, and I think pretending we know is foolish to pretend we know. So I see Harden's running with the ones. Ideally, I like getting them both. I think the price is pretty cheap. Harden went in the 8th. I was kind of trying to target like a 10, 11, maybe select both of them. I would have even done that, maybe like 9, 10. But Harden went off in the 8th. Somebody snagged him from me. That was Froton. No, he went in the 10th. So that was a smart pick. I probably would have tried to gone Harden and steal 10, 11 there. It's Chip Kelly offense. They're going to score the points. So for me, I think it's like a 50-50 toss up. Steals my, 4th running back. If he doesn't pan out, it's like what Josh was talking about with Tez Walker, right? If he doesn't pan out, then that's okay. You have some insurance. You don't necessarily have to start him anyway. But if he hits, I think Steele's the one who has like 15 touchdown upside. So if he hits, it's boom time.
JD, I love the pick you just made live. Tell people why you went for the Tar Heels receiver here.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of Nate McCollum. So I was just talking about Tez Walker, right? Like his eligibility was denied, man. They need a new wide receiver 1. They have Drake May is going to go number 2 in the NFL draft, most likely, right? So it's a little bit of a toss-up, but I like McCollum. He's kind of a slot guy, similar to Josh Downs. I know they have Kobe Paysor they can move around, but he can play inside, outside. He caught 2 touchdowns in the spring game. He has a good connection. And he produced on a bad Georgia Tech team last year. That team stunk, man. They had no passing options, and he still managed to be good. So he's a guy I've been grabbing a lot late in the draft.
It's funny because I think I had a bunch of Nate McCallum back in March, and then I just, guys come and go off your radar. And I've been thinking about him a lot because you're like, what if? And I hope Walker comes back. Don't get me wrong. But, man, what if he doesn't? And you're right, man. Nate McCallum for Georgia Tech was good, and they were not a very good team. So you're now putting him with an NFL quarterback in Drake May. That's the type of player at this round. He might end up every week starter. So I love that right here this late in the draft. Whoops, we got Jared on deck. Any questions, Matt, for JT?
Sorry, just trying to build up a queue here. I always get slammed at this part on the way back. It just let's
Mike
see
picks
here.
Up, so I got a couple.
Oh, you're making your pick here?
So JD, why don't you tell us, what are you doing right now for college fantasy football? How are you helping the industry? What are you doing? I know you've done a ton of DFS stuff. I know you have your own website where you do a weekly DFS show. So tell us what you're doing this year.
Yeah, so I'm over at Devi Watch, just the head of the CFF there. So we did a lot of off-season content, wrote up a guide this year. So if you're interested, check out the CFF guide. I tried to break down pretty much every team previews, rankings, etc. But yeah, once the season hits up, it's it starts this month, right? It's August 12th. So I think August 26th is week 0. We're 14 days out, right? 2 touchdowns away. Yeah, 26 to 12. We can make up that deficit, right? Just 14 straight points. It's funny how our brains think, right? So yeah, I'm really excited. We do DFS content. We break down the slates. Just got to keep you prepared. Props, all that good stuff. Plops and fantasy kind of bleed together. So I've seen the industry do a lot of really cool stuff with that over the last couple of years. So.
Well, you also did for the Debbie Watch. Wasn't this your first college fantasy football draft guide? I saw you do that. It looked like it was a bear over 300 pages. Tell us about what you did there for the Debbie Watch College Fantasy Football.
Yeah, so last year I previewed, I did every team conference previews, and I'm like, man, this is the main thing we do, right? That's pretty much what I do during the off season, because right, you mentioned it, 2 kids at home. That's my focus, and I'm like, look, if we already preview every team, why don't we just throw it together in a guide? So that's what we did this year. Yeah, it's got. I tried to go as in depth as possible for every single team. Of course, you can't say everything about every team, but I try as much as time allows, right?
Yeah, no, you know what? I've been in this for 15 years, and I remember there was so little information, and now there's at least 4 college fantasy football guides, which is great for us. I know yours was one of the top ones that I downloaded and looked at. It was great. It's just great to see people contributing to this hobby, because the more information directly with fantasy. I mean, you're probably like me, JD. 10 years ago, we went to Phil Steele or Athlons, or you got magazines on the shelf. There was very little information. Now they're starting to be more and more. If you just want to get into this great hobby, and JD's one of the best out there, everyone. But his guide this year and what people have done to grow this hobby has been incredible. So Matt, are you putting your cue there, Matt?
Yeah, I feel good.
Focus.
I feel like we have a decent queue lined up here. I'm sniped proof. There is somebody who I really want. And so I'm really hoping Zach doesn't take him. I almost took him at the 14-15 turn. And I was mentioning earlier when we had Josh on how much I love CFB DFS. And sometimes I think you can really get an edge playing that, because there's certain players who you get used to, and maybe their numbers aren't as high because of like injuries or inconsistencies with the offense. And so, tying that in here, one guy who I loved playing last year was Isaiah Williams out of Illinois. I think they're going to want to really get him involved in that offense. He's kind of gadgety, but not in a bad way. So in the 16th round, man, I'm glad to get. Although I noticed, man, I'm stacking a lot of orange on this team: Illinois, Tennessee, Oklahoma State. I don't know. There might be some bias flowing in here.
Hey,
These are the things you
JD,
got to think about.
So JD, what's your tight end strategy this year? I think it's always helpful. People have different strategies, and I think it's one of the positions we overlook sometimes. So tell the viewers, what did you do for tight end in this draft, and what's your overall strategy at tight end?
I think it's actually a pretty good year for tight ends. Sometimes in college, man, it's tough. Like it's pretty tough. Once you get to like 8, 9, 10, I mean, you might as well be selecting like tight end 30. Some years it's tough. I like this year. There's like 18 tight ends I could see rostering this year that could be like starter worthy. So for me, I'm usually waiting. If I don't get Gadsden, he's a cheat code, right? I think Mike took him in the first round. I'm totally fine with that. Guy could get 1,000 yards. But if I don't get Gadsden, I'm kind of more likely to wait and see who falls to me. I don't want to wait too long. So for here, I got Jalen Conyers. I was between him and the Stanford guy, Urosic. I got him in the 11th round, Conyers. I feel like he's a tough projection. He came on super strong to the end last year. Guy was a monster, but we've only seen like 4 games from him. New coaching staff, new quarterback. I feel like he's a difficult projection, but he's a guy I like taking a swing on, because, like I said, I can grab a tight end too, I think, at the end of the draft that I feel, I don't want to throw any names out there, but like someone that I feel could be a starter worthy, even if not a great option. I feel like this year there's enough depth back there. Yeah.
You know what, JD? I said this on an earlier podcast about 2 weeks ago. Last year, we were so hyped for the tight end. I think all of us content creators and CFF rankers and they kind of flopped. And the irony is I actually do think this year's tight end is deep, but we're not saying it because we were like burned last year. But I tend to agree with you. I have this giant tier of guys like after the top 6, and I'm pretty happy with almost anyone in that tier. So I tend to, if you don't go early, and I tend to go in that middle round. I've been very much into the 5th to 7th round taking a tight end. But if you skip that, I'm okay taking 2 of the next 15 guys almost.
Let
me see.
Yeah, you got Sanders in the 8th. That was really good. I thought about getting him there too. I think he's like my tight end 3 or 4. And now that Keithy, like he's starting fall camp, not fully healthy. I mean, Sanders, you can make a case for him as like tight end 3. You got him in the 8th. So that's a good job.
Yeah, and we had talked earlier with Shane Hallam, and I am a believer. When you start hearing draft buzz about a player, and he's basically the number 2 tight end behind Brock Bowers right now. And if Quinn Ewers hits in the Shark offense, that's why I have him the number 3 right now. So I do have the other big 2 ahead of him. So that's why I took the risk. I think, hey, it may or may not work. They haven't clicked yet at Texas, but I do think it will happen.
All right, John, and you just took a tight end too, so you're up to 3 tight ends here. Are you offsetting?
Oh, no, was that a tight end? No, that was the running back. Did I take the wrong guy?
You did.
I see purple.
I took the wrong one. Oh well.
All right, so there was no strategy
love
then. No 3 tight end strategy.
No, that is just drafting live and trying to do the queue.
Drafting live. You guys are doing a great job. You guys are absolutely killing. Drafting live is the hardest thing. I've tried it a few times. I'm missing my pick. You guys are, yeah. At least it's the 17th round. Yeah.
Yeah. At least you didn't mess up the first round.
Yes. Oh, I did screw that up. But if anyone doesn't know, drafting live, I'm telling you, it's one of the hardest skills if you're in the fantasy content creation. To actually do it live and draft is very hard, much more than people think.
Well, that's why I just focus on hosting and then field bad teams, so that you can't tell up front.
So I got to get my queue. My queue is now decimated.
So now, JD, I was talking a little bit earlier, year 1 for me, bottom of the league. Year 2, just missed the playoffs. Give us a little recap here, because you've been in both seasons, right, so far?
Yeah, so I've made the playoffs both years, and I've lost both times. I think I lost in the first round, both playoffs. So I'm a big choker. So I got to draft. Yeah, I'm a choker. I'm trying to draft the clutch guys this year. Like I got Grayson McCall. It's like his 5th year starting. Like, come on, he's got to have some experience. I'm trying to come on, man. We got to pick it up in the playoffs. Yeah, I remember I'm feeling great about my teams. Like year 1, I was highest scoring, and then I get to the playoffs, and just not even close, man. Yeah, I'm choking. I'm like the Chargers, right? I'm the Chargers. Everyone's falling apart.
You know what? Along those lines, then, we got a good question in from the chat here. Just any general strategy tips? I know we've talked about drafting a decent amount. We've also alluded to working the waiver wire, but just kind of any general CFF tips?
My advice is, like, I see a lot of people get a little too crazy with their strategy, and you could try to be different, but for me, like, I think it's like anything in life, right? You need balance. So like, get your balance, if you're balancing G5 and P5, if you're balancing your high risk players with your more high floor players. So for me, I think that's most important. I see a lot of imbalanced rosters out there. So I try to have balance, try to have a couple guys that are high risk. If they don't work out, the waiver wire's there. But if you're trying to hit the waiver wire for half your team, you're going to be in some trouble. You might not be making the playoffs by the time you have your roster set. So my advice is balance, and you can do that anyway. That doesn't mean drafting balance. I had 4 wide receivers in the first 6 rounds. You might be saying that doesn't sound like balance, right? But I like my balance of P5, G5, high risk. You get what I'm saying, right? So however it's going to work for you, however mentally you are able to find that balance to feel good about your team.
I like that.
I love that. I agree with balance. I think there's balance. You have to take upside, but you also have to have consistency. And that's why sometimes I find a lot of value in upperclassmen who might not be like NFL stars, like not first round picks, but they played for 2 years and they're in a good system. And they're going to score you like, oh, yeah, I got 15 points, 16 points out of my receiver every week. And there's a lot of value like that and balance. And of course, we all want to find Caleb Williams like last year, but that doesn't always happen. But yes, I agree. Get balance. Make sure you get points, right? This is about the accumulation of points. Get points.
Yeah. Well, I'm interested to hear your thoughts here. And JD, we'll let you go here on this last one. But Josh just took Zachariah Branch, wide receiver out of USC. We were just talking about the ability, the upside of experience, right? But there's always some upside here with youth too. Where does it kind of fall with true freshmen for you? Are you willing to lean into them, or just kind of let's maybe wait for a couple weeks and see what happens?
I don't a whole lot with true freshmen. I generally don't. I think this is the kind of time in the draft, right? The last couple of rounds, I would consider it. I just think, right, because college fantasy, you're getting a lot of Devy drafts, C2C drafts, and like those dynasty, those true freshmen are really valuable in those formats. Redraft is where they're going to be the least valuable, in my opinion. They're less likely to especially start out of the gate strong. So you're more likely to cut them early on in the season. So for me, it's not something I target. Obviously, if you're going with the Zachariah Branch, that's where you could see the upside. That kid is phenomenal. So I see the strategy. For me personally, I think if you're going to do it, I would definitely not overpay, because I do see a lot of overpays.
Yeah, and certainly in round 18, it makes a little bit more sense. But I think that's a really good point of, the freshmen, they might come on later in the season, right? So maybe that's a good strategy tip too, is as you're watching the waiver wire, if you see a true freshman, maybe start to see those targets climb up over the first couple weeks, but maybe they haven't smashed yet. Wait for that 1 week where they put it all together, and then, be willing to put down some serious fab to go ahead and get them. Well, JD, we'll go ahead and wrap things up here, because as we head into the final round, we want to do some overall recapping here. But thanks so much for joining us and upping the vibes a little bit too. I feel like I'm getting some photosynthesis just seeing the background here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, John. Great job throwing this together, man. You're a positive force. Matt, you do a fantastic job hosting. So thanks so much, guys.
Appreciate
Thank
it,
you,
man.
JD.
Sounds
Have
like
a great day.
in the playoff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, John, we're heading into round 19 out of 19 here, just coming up on the turn. So wanted to
We got
take
one
some
more
time
guest, right?
We
got one.
nobody in the
Oh, he's
waiting room.
going into the room right now. He's
Come
going
on
in the
in.
room right now. We got one last guest.
Come on in.
He's
bring him
jumping on
in.
right now.
I was going to say, we've covered a lot of analysts here, a lot of really great analysts covering content. John does a really good job of inviting in folks from all around the industry, right? We're getting a really wide breadth of all the resources available. And I think what's so awesome about all the analysts and experts that you've seen on this stream tonight is we're not territorial. We're looking to grow the game. We're looking to do it in whatever way we can, and we're looking to share each other's resources. So we're very genuine when we're telling you, check out all these other resources, because, we're all just looking to grow the pie a little bit here.
There's no one who I brought on today that I haven't either read, seen, looked, watched them on college fantasy drafts, read their content, watched their videos, their podcasts. All of us are putting out great information. In order to grow the hobby, we need more content creators. We also eventually need another company other than Fantrax to come in and do college fantasy football. But we are all contributing, and the information is out there now. It was not necessarily out there 10 years ago. Why don't you bring in our next guest, my friend Matt? While you do the double, I'll introduce our next guest, and we can go from there.
I think we're having a little bit of technical difficulty here.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
So,
he's trying to get.
Why don't you talk
Jeremy
about
to
the
come
Alar pick though? Before I jump into my picks, why don't you talk about the Alar pick, because that one's fun.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you because we got a lot of people in the room. Matt, what did you just say?
It's a party atmosphere. Why don't you talk about your last pick, John? Your Deion Hankins pick.
Well, so I like Hankins because he qualifies at two positions, running back, wide receiver. And we had talked about dual eligibility when Mike originally took Gadsden in the first round at tight end and wide receiver. I like that also in college fantasy football. There's a lot of dual eligibility, much more so than in NFL. So I like Haskins because he should be the starting running back right now for the Miners, and I can play at wide receiver if he gets the starting running back role and flex. So I'm getting a player as bye weeks come up, if he's going to be the starter, that we are going to be able to get him. I can move him around in my roster, and I kind of like him this year. I think that's a nice value to get a dual threat player. Jeremy switched computers in the room right now, so I think we're going to finally be able. Oops, my battery saver is on. That means I'm going low on the batteries, everyone.
That's how you know the draft is going on, man. We're past the 2-hour point.
Yes, and the only thing we have in here, we have limited plugs. Let me take my last pick just in case my battery goes out. So this is what happens at the end of 2 hours, everyone. So excuse all of us. Let me think.
John, as you're making this pick here, I'll just point out the viewers have not dropped off throughout this entire thing. And I know a ton of people also watch afterwards. So whether you're watching live or watching back a couple weeks later, we really appreciate you joining us. Hopefully this is informative. I think it's a really cool insight into the minds of a lot of content creators that you're you're just hearing our analysis as the season goes. But man, we're on the spot. We're making picks. We're making accountable decisions, right? And to see that, and I hope also our viewers have felt like they've gotten to guide our conversation here today. Yes, that's absolutely right, because you are sickos as well. We embrace the full sickos. What I'll point out here is if you go into the episode description for this, if you want to get sicko mode, we always love more people talking college football with us in the Rookie Big Board
Here,
Discord.
Matt, we have Zach hasn't even come. We have 2 people that have come on
with the episode
Here, go ahead,
description
Zach,
link
just
here. So you can go ahead and check that out as well if you want to keep the conversation rolling past this draft as well. And there it is. Looks like we got Jeremy in here to tag in here for the last half round or so. How's it going, man?
Actually, Zach, man, what's going on?
Oh, Zach, sorry. How's it going?
Hey, what's going on, man? I'm just here with this amazing group of people drafting. I just made my last pick. I actually got a Hurricane drafted. I probably overdrafted him, but it's your 19th pick, and I don't know. There's waivers, so I can cut them and pick somebody else up at any time. But how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. It's a full draft. We had some Canes love in the chat earlier today as well. So, good to see that represented. Tell me though, man, I mean, you said you just made your last pick, finished it up, drafting from the 102 spot. Give yourself a grade. How you feeling?
You know what? I was a little worried drafting from the second spot. I really came into the draft not wanting to take a quarterback in the first round. But with Drake May there at 1.2, I felt I could get a consistent scorer every single week that's going to be in my starting lineup. And I just kind of went with it. And I was happy with it. Now, 1-2, you were sniping me here and there. And then, oh, my God, Dwight was stealing all my group of 5 guys left and right. I mean, he went, into the 14th round. He took a group of 5 guy for the first 13 picks. So that's just an amazing feat, and it just shows you how fun and interesting college fantasy football can really be.
Wow. And I think we got Jeremy in here too. We got all of our technical difficulties worked out.
Yeah, great. What's up, guys?
How's it going, Jeremy?
I'm good. I'm
what's
good.
going on, man?
Feeling good about the team, and as we're wrapping up here, so glad we got to make it on. It's been a lot of fun.
We got the full array here represented, a wide range of teams. So we got big Sooners here to wrap it up, our last jersey.
Yeah, that's right. More Oklahoma guys in the house, or an Oklahoma guy in the house. That's right. It's been fun, though.
So Matt,
everybody had their jersey.
Matt, I have to ask you, did I ever snipe you? Did I ever get you? You were 1-1, I was 1-2. Did I ever get you?
Let's see here. I'm looking back here, cross-referencing the draft. You know what? I don't think you did. I don't think you got me. I'm trying to see here.
I tell you what, I really liked your Evan Stewart pick. I love the talent. I'm a Devi guy at heart, so I had to kind of take off my Devi glasses with some of this. But the true sophomore class of wide receivers, even though a lot of them aren't in high-octane offenses, there's so much talent, and they're all the focal point of their pass offenses that I just started taking shots at them. Antonio Williams, Berrien, Luther Burden was my first wide receiver taken, and I think they're going to force feed them. That's all they have. So I kind of played that card. I'm going to play the talent card and the focal point of the offense.
Yeah, and I'll say too, the closest you got, I wanted to wait one more round, but I was really in on Luther Burden. I thought I could get just like past that turn. So he wasn't in my queue on that turn, but I thought I could get another round. And it was clear I was just too I wasn't ambitious enough when going at him here. But I want to make sure, Jeremy, I know we kind of got you on a little bit late here, only a few picks left, but I wanted to at least kind of get your overall impressions on your draft. And impressions of this is the first year, right?
This is our first year. We've had a lot of growth, this past year. And we're really proud to be able to be in the room with such, great CFF players. And it's a great expansion, for the industry to be here at the Hall of Fame doing it. I have my partner, Willie B, in my ear the whole time. It's truly a joint team between myself and Willie B. And the way we determine our rankings is really just kind of hashing out, the average of where we both put our independent rankings. And we agreed on quite a bit today, which made it easy. A lot of times it's not easy when you have a partner. Our first decision was, we took running backs 3 out of the first 4. So when that big running back started in the second round and went into the third with like 9 picks, 10 picks in a row, looks like it was 11 picks in a row. Then it took a break for 2 picks, but then we leaned into it and we took Estime as our second running back after getting Rocket Sanders to kick off the draft at 10. We couldn't believe Sanders fell to us at the 10 spot. It was a little bit of a coin toss between him and Ali, but we were really impressed with that 242-pound weigh-in to start the camp this year. But we that's the end of the draft is a finale. But
I was gonna say that uproar is the cheers of the draft officially finishing here. 19
But
rounds.
We kind of went, classic John Lobb style with the 3 running backs in the first 4 picks, a little bit of old school style. We don't think Gore's a fluke. The way he finished last year, we think that continues. We were happy to wait for quarterbacks to get Gabriel and Delora. Couldn't be happier with those 2 quarterbacks. And, getting the Arizona receiver, who was number 4 in our receiver list, Cowing, we got a great receiver 1, with Hood, the group of 5 guy, from Georgia Southern, a real pass heavy volume, receiving volume, team, real good for the receivers there.
All right. Well, Jeremy and Zach, I'm sorry we couldn't get you on for longer here. We'll double up your time next year because we'll be, of course, already thinking about the 2024 draft. But I'm happy with this one and the way it went down, and I'm happy with how many people joined us for the live stream. Keep dropping even after the thing, man. Keep dropping the comments in the videos. We'll be tracking this. Want to be able to help you out as we approach college football season. So, thanks so much for everybody who joined us today, and I know John is on standby here helping make this such an awesome experience. And Jeremy's given off a real good look at the draft room here. So thanks to everybody, and a huge shout out in particular to all the viewers and all of our analysts that joined us here today. Thanks, folks.
Yep. See you. Bye-bye.